Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, theys, and gays. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter here. Happy, what is today? Wednesday. That's it. Uh, what is time?
21st.
God,
Man.
I can't believe
Jesus.
it's the 21st already. Happy Black History Month, y'all. I've been, man. Okay, just to kind of get this out of the way, out the box. If you check all my socials, it says that we're going to talk Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur season 2, as well as Watchmen. Funny thing is, I didn't realize, Brandon informed me that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur season 2 is actually not done yet. It's actually part 1 that they've uploaded.
What?
So
Yes,
I'm so excited and happy to hear that, because part one's cliffhanger is maddening.
Yeah. So we will be reviewing it as a trio. It will just be once the other episodes drop, which I think are in early March, I think.
Yeah, I wanna say March.
So so next month we'll have a review for season 2 proper. So we won't be talking about today. I will just say, as far as a quick note, to Bradley's point, the cliffhanger they end on, I was like, no, like straight up Darth Vader shit in my room, because I was watching this I love my partner. She's out of town this week, and this is one of those times where I'm actually happy she was gone, because I was watching at 3 a.m. and I was just like, fuck. I was like, I'm happy I wouldn't, because I would have woken her ass up. But so we will review it proper, but it will just be next month. But everyone, good afternoon. How Brandon, how are you feeling, man? I know you're feeling a little under the weather the other day. How you feeling, man?
Oh man, I feel rejuvenated. These past 2 days I've been like a zombie, not really getting out of bed. Really just stuck in one place. Like, I called into work yesterday. I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But today I woke up and I'm feeling a whole lot better. Like, I feel like I can actually move around and do stuff and eat properly. So a lot better.
Hell yeah, man. And Canada, how are you feeling, man?
I'm good. I haven't been sick.
Lucky you.
What a dick. I mean, other shit can go on besides you being sick, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anything going on with you?
No, not really. I'm doing a Richard Jenkins rewatch. Kids ask your parents. Yeah. Well, it's surprising, because he's such a prolific, I'm in this movie for 5 minutes character actor type of performer. I just watched Kong Skull Island because he was in that. Samuel L. Jackson carries, by the way. I really enjoyed his performance a lot on my second viewing of that movie.
Hey, buddy, you're okay.
Have you gotten to Step Brothers or Shape of Water yet?
No. I'm going to save those for days where I can really focus. Step Brothers I might watch with my older kids. That's a pretty silly movie.
Yeah, very silly.
Built bunk beds. How did this happen?
That's one of my my friend Diana, shout out to Diana, she asked me what some of my favorite comfort movies were. And I was like, that's an interesting question, because I'll get what are your comfort shows, and that kind of changes throughout the seasons. So Will and Grace has definitely been one, because Alea had never seen that, and I was like, oh, just off the representation alone, this is something you should watch. So Will and Grace has been one. Married with Children has always been one, because that and Martin are responsible for me learning how to talk shit as a kid. So
cool.
So thank you? Nice. Question mark?
yeah, no, that's a thank you for
sure. Good. So I mean, I love those shows for that. But then News Radio is definitely a comfort show, which Amazon removed off Prime Video, by the way, for no fucking reason. So thank you, Amazon, you assholes. That's one. And then other stuff oh god. Bob's Burgers is definitely one, because the cats both love that show. They actually go to sleep to it. So I mean, But thinking about like comfort movies, I was like, okay, so like Walk Hard is definitely one. Hot Tub Time Machine is definitely one. Black Panther is definitely one. And I'm not just saying that because Brandon's wearing a Wu-Tang Wakanda shirt, which wonderful, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, like what would be a comfort show for you, Brandon? Like give me a couple.
Oh man, I was just talking to somebody about this too. My comfort shows would for sure be like Adventure Time.
Nice.
Regular show, like those are things I can like put on a random episode and like enjoy, like I haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
Community for sure. Like I love that
that's
show.
another one.
Those are like the three that really come to mind. Like I'm trying to think what else like I just can put on, like Justice League, Unlimited and regular.
There you go.
Stuff like that. Like pretty much you can get me with like any animated show, probably be like a comfort show of mine.
Okay. Would Steven's Universe fall into that?
Oh yes, especially recently, like since I was a late bloomer on that. I missed the train on Steven Universe. So like binge watching that and like the was like the mini series afterwards and like the movie and all that stuff like really just made me love that show.
That was a show I was watching with this girl I was dating at the time, and the breakup went not great. And so I definitely there was like a 6-month thing where I was like, fuck Steven's Universe. But then I finally, but then I ended up like watching it like from scratch, like after I had that detachment. I was like, oh man, this is a great fucking show. Like Estelle's amazing on that show.
It is.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to be doing a review of that for Pride Month, because that is definitely one of those shows that Canada. What about you, man?
Pretty much the same. I love regular show. I used to have regular show T-shirts. I used to go whoa whenever something successful happened. The Simpsons always, even the later seasons, I don't mind as much. You know, I know a lot of people say true Simpson fans drop off after like season 11. And I'm like, nah, I'll probably always watch The Simpsons. Even I might not always like The Simpsons, but I'll probably always watch The Simpsons. Comfort movies like Life of Pi, Studio Ghibli, any Pixar movie that Michael Giacchino has scored, you know, stuff like that really helps me relax and sleep.
I'm gonna do a studio retrospective. I mean, I'm gonna go through and like. So if y'all want in on any of those reviews, I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna watch like all of them.
Oh hell yes, I'm in on it already.
Yeah, because I was thinking about stuff I want to do for the year, and I was like, okay, I think I want to do like a Tarantino full review. I think I want to do like a full Coen Brothers filmography. And I think if I do those, I'd be okay. I might add one more person, but I think that's enough. I think that's a decent amount of brain power to review all their shit. So I think I'm gonna stick. Like I have those penciled in for right now, but I want to go full in on studio. Because I haven't watched like Kiki's Delivery Service in a minute. I'm like, I should rewatch that.
Yeah, Phil Hartman's the cat in that.
Yeah, and that's actually
he's great.
And that's actually one of my like that's one of those things I remember hearing when I was like 12 after he passed, and I was like, wait, that was Phil Hartman? I didn't, because you know, like 6-year-old, 7-year-old you's like not thinking about that, and I was like, oh my god. And like, you know, so I think I'm gonna go through and just I don't know how I do it, but maybe next year, just because I'm still so hyped after watching it, I might go a full Godzilla.
Hell yeah.
Just because I was so okay, quick segue because I never do that here. I think it was Tuesday or maybe it was Monday. I can't remember what are days anymore, but a couple days ago I just could not fucking sleep. And so because I was watching Watchmen, and I got to give Brandon credit. He was like, I was kind of zooming through it, and he was like, hey, like, what episode are you coming up to? I was like, oh, I'm up on episode 6. And he was like, hey man, so just a heads up, you may not want to watch episode 6 right now because it's kind of intense. And you know, me being me, because because I'm hard headed. I was like, oh, how
Shut up,
hard?
Brandon. I don't need your
Yeah,
advice.
I was like, how bad could it be? And then I watched it, and I actually got out of bed, and I was like pacing around the house for like an hour, and I was like, God damn it! I was like, now I can't sleep, and so I was like sitting up, like it was like 2 a.m, 3 a.m. Like I go out in the living room, and like even Milo's like, dude, you're 3 hours early. What are you doing? So I actually went for a walk for like a half hour. I was like, okay. And then I came back and I was still like, fuck. And so my sleep schedule's been all over the place. It's kind of now just starting to resemble a normal sleep schedule again. But I wanted to dedicate the proper time to the show because I think it deserves it. So diving in proper now to Watchmen. So this came out in 2019. And I remember, man, I'm getting my timetables all fucked. But when the two of us initially started talking, I remember that was one of those things that Canada actually brought up was like, dude, have you watched the show? And I was like, no, I haven't watched it yet. And he was kind of like, wait, like, how have you not watched this? And I was like, well, we're living through a Trump presidency. I just can't handle more of like. That's why it took so long for me to watch When They See Us. Like I love Queen Ava shit, but I was just like, man, Central Park 5. It like I'm already in a place where I'm like hanging on by a thread mentally because of this asshole. So it was like, do I really want to watch media on top of that? And so I put that stuff off. I did watch When They See Us last year. Which, my God, that is just Felicity Huff. You know how some of these white people take on, like, I remember being so mad at Michael Fassbender for like a year after 12 Years a Slave. I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, yeah, like you fucking asshole. And like you see Paul Dano in that. Who, oh my God, like I remember that was like my first because I actually saw There Will Be Blood after I saw 12 Years a Slave. And so like I saw Paul Dano, I was like, man, I want to punch that guy in the face. And like pretty much every time I see Paul Dano, I'm like, your face should meet my fist. And
that's his bag. Like, let me get like all the punchable face rolls, please.
Yeah, and he's great at it. But then I see him in The Fablemans, and I'm like, oh, like I want to give you a hug. It's like, wait a minute, you'd probably go like, call me a name if but going into this, I was really curious because I didn't know. I have been able to avoid all spoilers on this, which is a fucking miracle considering the show is almost 5 years old. I will say my only real regret is I do wish I would have reread the graphic novel before I watched this. I think that would have been like nice to kind of read it and then go right into a watch. With that said, I'm going to leave it to you two. I'll start with you, Canada, since I know you have the graphic novel. Kind of give us a little summary of Watchmen leading up to this.
Whoa, a summary of the Watchmen.
Yeah, I know. Like this is the only thing. This is the only thing we're reviewing for a reason because we're going to.
It's dense. It's a lot.
Yeah. Let's see if I can condense the density of that perfect story. I'm a fan, I could say, with that intro. Long ago, superheroes were made, or rather gathered, capes they called them, mostly as publicity at first, just to really show the United States that, hey, we're in control, everything's fine. Look how happy we are to serve justice. What did you have? The Hooded Justice, the original Owlman, Silk Spectre, the original of her. Doctor was the comedian. There's a guy.
He is a person, kind of.
Yeah, they called themselves the Minutemen. Let me just look up them real quick. Yeah, right. Interesting choice of name.
There's so much to get. Like as I was going through my notes, I had to actually start labeling my notes by episode because I was like, if I just put a lot of my brain is gonna be like, wait, what is this from? Yeah. So for those of you, before I roll back to you real quick, Canada, for those of you who haven't watched this, I cannot stress enough, this is not a be on your phone type show. This is one of the densest shows, and I mean this is a compliment. This is one of the densest shows I've ever watched. It's very similar to when I was watching something like 6 Feet Under. It's like you really need to be paying attention when you watch this shit. Now, with that said, the show rewards you like a motherfucker for paying attention. Oh my god, the last 3 episodes of this show are just. We'll get there, but oh my god! But sorry, but continue, man. So continue, Brad.
So yeah, you have your superheroes. They're dressed up. They're vibrant. They want justice. Notable members would be the comedian. I want to say his name was Eddie Blake, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think you're right on it.
Right.
And and another member, Hooded Justice. Nobody knows who that guy is. He just shows up, fully cowled, noose around his neck, brute, very violent superhero. And everyone's like, but he serves justice, so it's okay. Comedian understands that better than the entire group, that justice is something they're ordered to do, not something they actually serve. And anyways, we got to pass up on all the philosophical discussions on that. So that group eventually disbands because costume freaks, being like a privatized arm of the police for who's ever in charge, that's not a good idea. Eventually they reband. The comedian is there, totally different get up. Sally's daughter is a part of this new group of Minutemen. This freaky blue man who seems to be outside of space and time, but also within it, that can control life itself, we'll just put, called Dr. Manhattan, as a part of their group. You have another night owl that's joined, and this hooded figure named Rorschach, who also doesn't let anyone know who he is. His mask is cool because it's like an ink blot test or a Rorschach test that changes shape.
That's one of the most underrated, I think, mask designs in comics history, because I don't think people
agree
that mask nearly enough.
Totally agree.
So you got this next gen Minutemen, and they get involved with Vietnam. And the story becomes kind of an alternate history, because with Dr. Manhattan, the quote behind his is, Superman exists and he's American. Dr. Manhattan wins Vietnam for America. And the alternate history then plays out. Oh, and also a part of the second generation is the smartest, most talented man in the world, who calls himself Ozymandias. I forget what his name is, but he's an asshole.
Adrian
Veidt. Yeah. Total asshole. But he should be. He's an egomaniac who knows everything. So then we have years pass again after what we did back then. It's a lot of brooding. And Rorschach, who's still a cape, even though superheroing has been outlawed, like literally made illegal. No more of that. He still goes, against the grain and is a superhero, in quotes. And he finds out that the comedian has been murdered. Now, why the comedian was murdered, that is a huge mystery, and it all plays out to the Minutemen joining up for a fourth time. The Night Owl, Spectre, Rorschach, and kind of Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
To discover who did that killing and why. The results are a ticking doomsday clock, the destruction of New York, and the show pretty much takes off, I'd say, a couple of decades after that, where we're in another alternate history. Adrian Veidt seems to be missing, vanished off the face of the earth. Dr. Manhattan is missing. Rorschach has a fascist group of fanboys who love his diary. Which credit to Alan Moore, he did say that that's probably what would happen for anyone who idolizes Rorschach, is the destruction of free thought. And
So first off, bravo, that was a great fucking summary.
Yeah.
Like I was sitting here, I'm like, wow, he's actually filling some gaps that I actually
it's pretty good.
Just to finish on because this ties in with the show. Ozymandias, can I spoil a 40-year-old comic book?
Dude,
yeah.
So Ozymandias was actually behind the murder of the comedian because the comedian knew what Ozzy was up to. I don't think the comedian was even a threat to him, is what makes it so upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he died a very sad, painful, horrible death.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, hands down, fuck that guy. But
absolutely, yeah. Credit to
credit to the writing. Anytime an old man is sad and regrets his life, for some reason that hits me. Like, oof.
Yeah. Like, dude, I honestly though, I feel that in the way that whenever I watch a movie with someone who's like obsessed with film and they're like, well, actually your opinion's wrong, that's why. And I kind of look around, I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, is anyone I was like, is anyone else watching this with me? Oh, thank God it's just me. It's just me. like I was watching that new Randall Park movie Shortcomings, and there's a guy, main character in there. As I was watching that trailer, I was like, ooh, hello. This feels a little
too close to home.
Yeah, like, but I'm right there with you. So, like, what's so interesting? So, I have not read. God damn, when's the last time I read Watchmen? I haven't read Watchmen in about 13 years. 13, yeah, about that. And I don't own it, which I don't have an excuse for not owning it. It is something I should own. I am gonna buy it here once, job. But but I remember, I do remember watching the movie, and look, I have given Zack Snyder a ton of shit for years, and I will say one of the things that just always made me roll my eyes about the movie adaptation is, first off, that fuck scene, the Hallelujah, I think is just, I cannot put enough in words how much that scene just pisses me off. It's just like, dude,
it's so campy though. It's so silly.
The campiest, the flame coming out.
Oh my God, just
slow motion O face, like
subtlety. Like, thy name is Snyder.
He's an owl, and he's like, "Whoo!"
Yeah, right. It's like, did you just let anything breathe in that? So that scene,
the people they just saved are standing there like,
yep.
Okay, I guess we're watching this. Now I don't know if they're on the jet with them when they start, but I just always found that
better
funny.
if it is.
Yeah. Like, that movie frustrates me so much because there's stuff I really dig about it. Like, I think Jackie Earle Haley's incredible in that movie. It's like, oh my God, like he's great. And then even though I don't always give him his props, I think Patrick Wilson is really good in that.
I think so too.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan is really great in that.
I think he's the MVP, Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
I
for sure.
I agree 1,000%. But my biggest axe to grind at that movie is, I'm sure she's a sweet lady. Malin Ackerman, I think, is just ass in everything she's in. I don't understand how she's so bad all the time. And again, she seems like, I watch her in interviews and I'm like, God damn it, she seems so sweet. And I just like, anytime I see her in something, like, I remember I watched that and like The Heartbreak Kid within like 6 months of each other, and I was like, oh girl, you gotta just like, like, what's going on here? And so much of the emotional beats of Watchmen are dependent on Silk Spectre too, and
she's pretty much like a main character, like next to
she is
Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan. Like, I feel like she has the most scenes probably in the movie, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And it's made worse by the fact that the original Silk Spectre is a far better actress. And I just I was like, oh my God, if you switch this, we're probably having a different conversation. I probably have the movie in like a low B category, maybe even. But that casting decision, like, at the end when she's talking to Dr. Manhattan, I'm just like, man, I'm feeling just nothing here, and I should be feeling something. And I think what Snyder does at the end is a giant ass cop out. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, you'll show a woman getting lobotomize and go feminism, but a giant fucking squid is too much for you. Like,
Give me the squid, Snyder.
It's like fuck you. Give me the squid. Like I wish, and this is not just for him. This is for all. Like, don't run away from the silly. Like sometimes silly is fun, but what the squid represents is why it's so powerful. And they just go, no squid, and it's like, no.
Yeah, well, what makes it odd is for the whole first act of this comic, politicians and legislators and American citizens are like, yeah, God exists and he's American. Dr. Manhattan is on our side. So to change this powder keg between Russia, I think, I'm pretty sure it's Russia and America.
Yeah.
It's the doomsday clock is, ticking, as they say. And to change it from a completely random squid explosion from beyond the heavens that no one can explain to Dr. Manhattan attacked America. Like, sorry, Putin and the Russians would be like, aha. They wouldn't like come together and be like, we're friends now. They would like revel in it. Looks like you can't control your god, silly American.
No, we would just send Tucker Carlson to Russia, and it would all be okay. Because
he'd be like, did they?
They brought Dr. Manhattan's wrath on themselves. It's their fault.
But by the way, I'm in no way like condoning this. Like, if you can find a clip on Twitter or something, watch it. They always show clips of it, but Tucker Carlson in Russia was like the most depressing fucking thing in the world. I was like, my God, like this is why, honestly, one of the reasons I keep doing the podcast, because I'm just like, man, if Dr. Phil can be a doctor, quote unquote, it's like clearly like clearly degrees mean nothing. It's like I might as well just keep doing this. But so but I don't know. I did watch the Watchmen like graphic novel that they did, like the live, like the cartoon.
Cool.
I thought that was actually really well done. I actually really enjoyed that. So if you're not, and before anyone asks, yes, I watched the extended arbitrary Snyder version
of the Black Freighter cut.
Yeah, which, my God, just one cut, people. Can we get back to one cut of films?
I think Gerard Butler does the voice of the lone survivor in the Black Freighter, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool. Okay,
but the Black Freighter, none of that matters if Dr. Manhattan's the bad guy, quote unquote, at the end of the story. So I'm not sure.
Wrong.
Ozymandias is losing everything that he's protecting and becoming the king of the dead ship in the Black Freighter. That juxtaposition, that's I feel like what it's telling.
Yeah.
With Snyder being like, and then Ozymandias tricked everyone into thinking John Osterman was a bad guy. Like, what's the juxtaposition here with the Black Freighter animation, if that's what you're doing?
Yeah, right.
So did y'all ever read the second Watchmen? Because Superman.
I think it was called like
Doomsday
Before Watchmen,
Clock, right?
or the Minutemen. Oh, the Doomsday Clock.
There's a lot of Watchmen.
Yeah, there's a ton of Watchmen
stuff. Like,
fair. Well,
not great, but the artwork is pretty awesome.
Not great. Okay.
The second Rorschach is a cool character.
Oh, this is one I read.
Before Watchmen.
I read this post Watchmen, the show, and I think there's a couple of these that focus on like the Minutemen specifically, and like their time. But this one specifically about like Hooded Justice and Silk Spectre. So like there's some very good stuff like in it, but like at the same time, it's like I don't know if we really needed more Watchmen, because like Bradley said, like this
kind of
the OG story is like, exactly, yeah.
Oh, the No Capes monologue from Incredibles actually was inspired by the Watchmen, because in one of the opening issues of the Watchmen, a buddy who's standing there to guard the bank, just some guy dressed up as a hero, like, haha, during a bank robbery, he chases after the bank robbers, and his cape gets stuck in the revolving door. So the robber just turns around and shoots him in the face, and dead body stuck in the door for the rest of the. So someone mentions like no comedian jokes like, yeah, that's why I don't wear a cape,
That makes I will say too, man, like and this is gonna be so morbid because you do those like, would you rather? It's like, would you rather like be burned alive or like drown? I will say,
Whoa.
Right. Okay.
What can I say? My brain's a weird place. By the way, drown. Because being set on fire sounds horrible, but especially with my hair. But but getting shot in the, I think knowing that it's coming is the thing that's like, oh, that sucks. Like getting caught in the door and just having no way to escape. It's like, oh, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like you bring up that point, like we were talking about Snyder and Watchmen. Like I think the best thing about that movie is the intro credits, where it shows like the time passing, the Minutemen, like how they fade away. Like I think it even shows the hero who gets like caught in like the revolving door, like his death. There's like a lot of good stuff in the intro, and then like the rest of the movie happens.
I will say the Dr. Manhattan like mini origin movie I think is so well done. Like, like that's the thing about, like, he's great in pockets with this shit, and yes, there's so much slow mo in that. I'm like, oh man, this movie is probably 2 hours if you cut out like 50% of slow mo, but that Dr. Manhattan mini movie I thought was so well done. I was like, this is fucking cool, and I will say they don't use slow-mo a lot in the show, but the times they do use it, it actually enhances like what you're watching. So we'll get into that. So Brandon, I'm gonna throw it to you, man. So I kind of rewatched episode 1 just to kind of refamiliarize myself, but if you want to kind of kick us off as far as like where we start off, like with episode 1 going into the show.
Oh man, okay, yeah, episode 1. Like this is one thing I love about this show. Like they just drop us in. Like we're the audience is catching up like to this world, this
Very
alternate. It's not even a future. It's like an alternate present. I'm pretty sure it takes place in like present day. But like we open up with a routine cop stop. A cop is stopping somebody. I think like their tail lighter's out or something like that. Something's wrong, and the first thing we get about this world is the cop is wearing a mask covering his face. We cannot see him, and they're like, we can see something's off with the person that they stopped. And then we get even more information to this world. Like he tries to he's like, there's something wrong, dispatch, can I like get my gun? But like the gun is like locked into his car, so like he needs approval to get the gun out of his car before he can even use it.
I laughed at that. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah,
I was just like, I was like a cop it's like a cop having to be forced to wait to shoot. I was like,
come on.
Clearly,
well, also consciously think and make a decision on whether or not to pull a firearm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rather than the knee jerk. I decided I felt unsafe, so everyone had to die in it.
I was like, this is clearly not taking place in Minnesota, but
no,
but too soon. But sorry, continue.
Yeah. This is our first like look into the world. Cops are wearing masks. They are the superheroes of this world, quote unquote superheroes, because like Bradley mentioned, Dr. Manhattan is the only actual hero with superpowers in this world. Everybody else is pretty much a guy or girl with too much free time and money on their hands, dressing up in spandex. And so routine traffic stop until it's not, and the guy shoots the cop because he cannot get his gun out of the lock, and throws a cabbage into the cop car, which is kind of like, or is it lettuce, whatever, into the cop car. And
it's produce.
Then we get produce. Then we get Oklahoma. We get Don Johnson sitting watching Black Oklahoma, as he calls it. I
was dying.
It's a weird world. Like there are no like real intros to the show. We get like cool title cards that I absolutely love, like that change every episode, and kind of like go with the theme or aesthetic of whatever we're going to see in the episode. But yeah, that's like our first look. Don Johnson's Oklahoma. Regina King is teaching a class.
My God, Regina King,
because she is her cover is she is a baker, so she's like like cracking eggs into the bowl and explaining to the kids like about stuff. And then we get more into this world, like even just like in the background, like we see Robert Redford posters on the wall, like he's president. We see like watch out for squid falls. You're like, what the fuck is that? We see like all this kind of stuff, and then one bratty little kid like asks like were you a cop or whatever? Like what happened? And then we get one of my favorite tropes is when an adult explains something to a kid that they definitely should not be explaining to a kid.
Right, dude, I love that trope so much. But I love it though because you in Canada, I'll kind of throw it to you in this sense because one of my biggest peeves about reviewing stuff is I hate when stuff talks down to kids. But then there's that fine line of like how much you explain to a kid versus like how much you cut like. I mean, you being a dad, Canada, like, is that something you kind of find yourself like that juxtaposition? Because I mean, you know, like you don't want to tell a 3-year-old, like, yeah, Santa doesn't exist, but at the same time, but at the same time, like you kind of want to like inform the kids. So like, how do you kind of balance that?
Well, you just tell them about magic, and you believe in magic. You like put it on them to believe or not. That's my method. None of my kids, when they have found out the truth of it, have said, you lied to me, because they know that I put that on you. You decide whether.
That's good. That's good.
The world is a beautiful place when you believe in magic. So.
Oh, yeah.
I still believe in types of magic,
That's kind of brilliant.
The power of friendship and love. It's magic,
Very brilliant, actually.
So I mean, you kind of say that, like, I know you say that's kind of it's snarky, but there is kind of that power of friendship here, like as far as like, and that's actually one of my favorite themes about it, is because as the show goes on, and we're going to be jumping all over the place here, because like I said, there's a lot to cover. Oh God, I don't. Looking Glass, played by Tim Blake Nelson, who, my God, I had no idea he was in this show until I was rewatching, and I was like, oh my God, he's fucking perfect. Like he's perfect in this role, and that was probably my biggest surprise. Like not that the show's cast well or anything like that, but you see. You get someone like Tim Blake Nelson. When Gene Smart popped up, I was like, "Oh shit, God, let's go!" I was like, "Okay, I didn't know you were in this," and the show just kept making me go, "Oh, it's this person," and they're gonna. So to go back real quick to episode 1, we do Don Johnson's. I gotta say too, is anyone else a little uncomfortable with how well Don Johnson is playing a racist? Like, it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like
between this and Django, I'm like, you're too good, man. I don't know.
Like, well, how old is he?
Oh, he's gotta be like up there, late 60s, 70s.
Probably.
I mean, he could be just reaching back to a time where, not that I want to accuse him of anything, but not everybody was happy with the 60s and with.
Yeah, you ain't lying, man.
Yeah, he's 74.
Oh, he's 74. God damn. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, Nash Bridges' partner wasn't black. I mean, he was kind of. Maybe Cheech Marin was just,
maybe honestly.
Maybe just put up with him, and only got 5 seasons. Maybe that's why.
Hey, he delivers a line that is very much, oh, yay, racism doesn't exist anymore, but it does. You know? And that line is, well, I guess out of context, it's not a spoiler, but he says, "It's my legacy." And the hell is that about? But it was very passionately delivered, made me think, like what you two were just saying, like, what kind of person were you in the 60s, Mr. Johnson?
So there is.
You bring up a very good point. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say very quickly. Brad brings up a very good point. Like, legacy is there's a bunch of overarching themes in this show, but legacy is like definitely one of the big ones that we see. And it's even a thing like in the OG Watchmen, like you mentioned. There's multiple night owls, multiple six buck can't even talk. Silk Specters.
There you go.
And like legacy is always the thing, like even in modern like comic book stories and superhero stories, like who's going to be the next Superman, who's going to be the next Batman, all that kind of thing. And I feel like that's a heavy point on this show where you want to know where you came from, you want to know what you're leaving for your kids and stuff like that, and like who's going to be the one to like carry on your story, stuff like that.
So one thing, I mean, so racism is like probably the biggest overarching theme in this show, which I'll be real, I did not expect it to be like
and most of the audience in 2019.
Yeah, because like when I started watching, I was like, man, this is kind of leaning like so I'm gonna compare it to this, and I think it's apropos because I think both shows do a great job of touching on it. So when Canada and I first started talking, and I'm gonna bring this up because I have no shame. So there's a guy in our chat named Michael who's giving me a bunch of shit because I was like, look, if you're gonna do Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you kind of have to bring up the red, white, and black storyline. Like you kind of like there's really no way around it. And he's like, I don't think they're gonna do it. I don't think Marvel is gonna do it. Da, da, da. And so by in episode 1, I was like, oh man, they're kind of leaning heavy into the like, man, like sucks to be black. You shouldn't have given us the shield back. Let's just give this to the next to insert white guy here. And exactly how the government would handle it. 1,000% what the government would do. Like I actually was like I cried at the end of the first episode, but then I started laughing because I was like, yeah, this is exactly what would happen. It's like, oh yeah, it's like thanks for giving us back the vibranium we stole.
Time to make it ours again without even waiting a week.
Like, and it's really funny how people keep proving that show and really this show right, because I still see people going, why doesn't Bucky have the shield? And it's like, y'all, it's like several reasons. It's that, and then people having the nerve to be upset that Shuri and T'Challa were like, we should put a failsafe in this arm in case he goes nuts again, and people being like, he didn't trust him, how dare. It's like, really? It's like he's dumb for thinking ahead that this guy might get reactivated in Wakanda and kill a bunch of his people. Like, no, I would do the same. I would do the same thing. And this show, and again, I said we're going to jump around. You mentioned Hooded Justice here at the beginning. That was the thing that, as I'm sitting there watching the show, I think it's like episode 6. Where I was like, wait, Hooded Justice, why do I, oh fuck. And then the light bulb went off. I was like, oh crap, this is Isaiah Bradley. I'm like, this is exactly what, and that revelation of, would people actually be okay with the first superhero being a person of color? And the short answer is no, absolutely not. People wouldn't be okay with it. And
my God. Okay, sorry, no, continue. I remember what I have to say.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll wrap this up. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna say that was awesome witnessing a Jimmy Neutron like brain blast in real time. That's exactly what
it was.
That was great. But yeah. So Brandon, go ahead before you forget.
Shame on me, because holy shit, episode 1 does not open up like that. Episode 1 opens up flashback 21 Tulsa, Oklahoma. We get a child watching Bass Reeves, a Bass Reeves film, which connects right back to Hooded Justice, connects to the thing you were just saying. Like, would people want a superhero, a first superhero, if they found out they were black? Like, the whole thing is like when Bass Reeves reveals himself, they're like, oh shit, it's a black guy. Cut to Blazing Saddles. It's a knit. It opens up with Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're like, Damon Lindelof and company are like, we're going to give you a history lesson before we jump into this comic booky shit. And me personally, I did not know a lot about Tulsa, Oklahoma at all, and I think a lot of the audience didn't as well. Like, I remember watching that first episode that week, and there was a bunch of like articles and stuff like that, like saying like, oh, you don't know about Tulsa? Here, Watchmen helped, people learn about this kind of stuff. And like it's something that like totally sets the tone for the rest of the show. Like you said, race is like a huge part of it. Like if you don't know what the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre is when basically Black Wall Street, like it was
exactly
thing in the 20s. A bunch of mad racist white people basically went on a massacre, killing Black people, destroying their places of business and everything. And so, yeah, that's what the show opens up with. That's our start. That's how we get our like first little taste of what's to come.
And it's such a hard opening to watch. I was just like as soon as they showed Tulsa, Oklahoma, like 1920, I was like, oh no, like because like my mom was very much one of those like, this is Black history. Here's a book. You read this shit right now. It's like, oh, all right, like you read this and then you can play Sonic for 30 minutes. like I had that mom. And so when I saw the opening, I was like, oh fuck me. Like we're gonna start with this. And it feels very jarring. It's nice of HBO, by the way, to educate kids since schools aren't anymore. But it's one of those openings where you're like, okay, why are we starting with this? And to your point, the way it connects back as the show goes on, you're like, wow, this is kind of nuts. I know we mentioned Regina King's Angela, so I just have to gush over Regina King real quick. Phrasing. I was like, gonna phrase that. but sploosh, exactly. So first off, she's 53. She does not look 53. No, like I was like, oh, 53. I still remember seeing her in Boys in the Hood and being like, man, I think she's gonna be something. And she's just like, it's one of my favorite individual performances in a show ever. Honestly, like as I was watching it, I just kept going, the amount of layers as far as her, because I'll just I think Brandon will understand where I'm coming from here. There is that, and I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this. There's because like it's frustrating. It's frustrating in the sense of you have people who you think are allies, and I'll speak for myself here. I had one friend, several people during Trump and Hillary's presidential campaign, because there are just so many people who are like, oh my God, Trump can like save us and get us back to like where we were. And it's like, when you say back to where we were to a Black person, you have to understand the connotation that it has with that. Like it's never, when you say back to where we were, it's rarely, if ever, a good thing. And so when I'm hearing, like his whole, like the literal term "Make America Great Again," it's like, it's very much kind of that pro wrestling aspect of, oh yeah, back in the 80s when men could cheat on their wives a lot easier and they were doing coke, before they're having matches. Like back then, is not a good thing. Old school is rarely a good thing. And so when you hear people use those terms or just different variations of it and go, yeah, this is totally how it should be, it's like, no, it shouldn't. And in the show does a really good job. Like it's eerie how well the show's like gonna age and is already aging. As far as like, there's a point where a white guy literally says that we've course corrected too much. We need to get back to the way things were. Like it's scary to be a white man. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was like, it's watching Fox News. Like I'm like, this is fucking creepy. Like, but it's insane the insight that like the writers had. I had the showrunner, Damon Lindelof, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, Damon Lindelof.
Holy, so first off, right out the box, I cannot imagine this was an easy pitch to anyone, let alone HBO. But as I was watching this, I was like, okay, I don't honestly know how you pitch this show, to be honest. He did The Hunt. He was a producer on there, which actually makes a lot of sense now that I see that. But just, I would love to know what the pitch was for this, because Alan Moore, understandably so, is not a fan of pretty much any adaptation of his shit.
No.
Like he He's basically
like
the
I was
beast.
reading. I was
Yeah.
reading something. I think it was around the show. He said like, he's like, I don't want to have anything to do with the showrunner or the show. Basically, he was like, I'm not interested. And I was like, but it's a good show, Alan Moore. Like,
Yeah. I would love to know if he actually finally got around. Because I'll be real, man. After I saw League of Extraordinary, even 8-year-old me watching
oh yeah,
League
that
of
broke him.
Extraordinary, yeah, like it
I
just
think that's
broke
what
his
did
ass.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, he was like, "Cool, I'm out," and I can't blame him. Like, if I watched that, I'd be like, "Oh, cool, I don't want to see his shit anymore either." But this show is like, this actually, this is why you should never feel like a slave to the source material.
Mhm.
Like, this is why it should just really be an inspiration, because it really felt like Lindelof kind of went, I think you'll know what I mean, smart Alan Sorkin, because I really do. I think Alan Sorkin just sometimes gets his head so far up his own ass, like, you know,
Sure.
it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
The trial of with that movie, that was like the last example of me just going like, dude, you almost need a filter at this point because you're going so far this way. But it really felt like Lindelof actually had something that he wanted to say, but at the same time, I think doing this you have to do this in an episodic format. Like, there's no way you could do a movie. But getting back to Angela here real quick, I love the way the costume looks. Like, it's a very simple costume, but it's like it's very real world in that sense. Like the other costumes I think in Watchmen typically are. The violence in here, there's nothing glamorous about it, and that's something I think HBO just kind of like their shows just kind of nail. Is like there's never like a fantastical element to it. It always feels real world and it always feels like rough, which which given the subject matter it should. But anytime there was a death in here, like I felt the shit. Like, even if it wasn't someone that I liked, it was like, oh wow, like that was intense. But all that with the Trump and everything to say, like, there is this part of Angela that has a friendship with Don Johnson's character, and she does see him someone as a mentor, and so tying it back for me, having to unfriend so many people who were believing like what Trump was selling, it really hurts you because you're like, oh wow, I thought we were cool, I thought you were wanting, you know, you had my best interest, you know, at heart. And I'll tie that a lot. I'll tie that back to the religious community, specifically church community, where, you know, it's very much you know, oh, we're all one body, we all love God, and then it's like, oh, you're getting shot in the streets. Well, you know, we'll give you thoughts and prayers, but we won't, you know, stand with you. And it's one of those things where you're like, wow, you have to reconcile that, and, you know, actually have to deal with that. And Don Johnson's character, he gets off lucky in the sense of like he's killed, he's, you know, moved on, you know, whatever. Angela's the one who has to sit back and deal with, was their friendship alive the whole time? Like, what's her legacy now tied to him? And it's like, it's really heartbreaking her having to reconcile all this in real time while still trying to figure out what happened to him and kind of keep her emotions in check. Like, it's a real balancing act that she's doing. And I think it's a balancing act that Black people have to do way more than like people talk about. And I felt bad for her. Like, I just really wanted to just go like, girl, like I get it. It sucks. Like it really sucks, but I understand. Canada, kind of your thoughts on that. You know, white guy.
Oh yes, very knowledgeable on this topic. I carry my white privilege around and often show off, but I understand this. On that, the meta commentary behind this brilliant writing, and real quick, my favorite Damon Lindelof, other than this, would be The Leftovers, which is also a very traumatic, difficult thing to watch because it does not deliver answers like people want.
I gotta watch that.
But this mentor, this father figure that she has, is brutally murdered, and we don't know why. and they find something in his house, in his closet, secret closet of all things. And she's just like, and again, such a brilliant performance.
Oh, we can say what it is. Like,
okay, they find a clan garb, like high up tiered, like stupid dumbass grand wizard type of whatever they rank themselves as now, big dragon clan garb.
Yeah.
So I remember correctly, she's kind of all like, everyone's all pretty much seeing it how it is, like I would, like, oh, he was a Klansman secretly. That's interesting. Wow. But she's kind of dealing with, no, someone must have put that in there. Someone's framing him. That's not him. Yeah, how did you break the door in? But like, what to me it'd be like, oh my god, like that would be my reaction. But if I was someone that the clan hated, I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to find out somebody I cared about did not respect my right to exist, putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Like there's even
and the meta commentary being like, it was in his closet. She was never supposed to find out, but this was something he was proud of.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's on a bust. It's like on a human thing too. It's not just hanging up. Like he has this. He irons
something he
thing.
probably
Like,
jerked it to at night.
Oh, 1,000%.
Exactly.
Like, but that's what's so like fucked about it. Gene Smart character, makes that point later on about like, you don't put something on display like that, even if it's secret, if you're not proud of it. And you see Angela's like face in real time kind of go like, fuck, she's right. And it's just like, and it's like, oh, that sucks so bad.
And that messes with her identity, because what is she supposed to do with this? Everything that she's learned from this man who was good at his job, for lack of a better term, put that in quotes. What does she do with it?
Yeah,
because
like there's even
this asshole is part of her life, and it's so tainted and gross now.
Yeah,
like they have family dinners together. Like they're close.
Yeah.
And like there's even a bit later where like she reveals it to Tim Blake Nelson's character, Looking Glass, and okay, where she's like, "Did you know he was racist?" And he was like, "Well, he was a white man in Oklahoma." So, and then like she reveals like the garb, and he's like, "Oh shit!"
And like when he says it, you're like, he's not wrong. Like it's. Like, is it a generalization? Yeah, but is it a correct one? Also, yeah. And you're just like, oh, and again, she has to deal with that. She has to deal with that in real time. Going to another character here. So I want to talk about Tim Blake Nelson here.
Please. Yeah.
So I didn't know what his role was going to be. He's one of those character actors that when I see him pop up, I just get excited. I'm like, oh hell yeah. Like you're
exactly.
Let's go. So I was really happy to see that he was in this. His origin story. Once it's episode 5, or it's basically an episode, like it's basically just an origin story for him. Episode 5. Oh, I had they have such
good episode titles.
I love the episode. Like, so I won't lie, that's just as a nerd, that's one of those things I really like that. Like I really like a good episode title. It just it weirdly gets me hype. So yeah, his episode, I'm pulling up all the episodes here. A little fear of lightning. There you go. So the opening to that is that we get a young version of his character. We get a young version of Looking Glass, and he's at this fair. And I will say I like a good fair. Like like I don't know, fair food just hits different. But he goes into this like hall of mirrors, and he's it's really funny because I had my whole Taylor Swift post, like, I'm pitching that I treat Swifties like I treat people who are trying to hand me a copy of Watchtower. Like, I'm happy you found something, but leave me the fuck alone. And the first thing they show is him holding a copy of Watchtower.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's funny. But he I won't lie. I laughed really hard at that. I was like,
No. It's good. It's good.
I was like, I just fucking referenced Watchtower. But he's going ahead trying to hand out copies of Watchtower, to those evil punk kids, and
those ne'er-do-wells.
those kids in dark makeup, and someone I would be like,
those
hey,
sinners.
yeah. Like as I was sitting there, I was like, man, I feel attacked right now. But he goes ahead and he's talking to this one girl. Like, so this guy's just being a dick. He just like knocks all the copies of Watchtower out of his hand, like very Back to the Future-esque in that way. Just kind of like,
it is,
why are you being such a dick? But this one girl goes ahead and goes like, oh, hey, I want to hear more. So she goes ahead and grabs his hand. They go walking off together, and she takes him into like kind of like the Hall of Mirrors, like this. And basically he's like, hey, like I'll suck your dick right here, which I was like, oh, good for you, man. And but he's like, but he goes like, no. And she pulls, so I will say this is somewhat of an irrational fear, Someone stealing my clothes is one of the most terrifying concepts in the world.
No. I'm right there with you.
Dude, like when she stole clothes, I was like, you fucking bitch. Like I was like, that's so, but then joke's on her and everyone else who happens to not be in the hall because squids fall. And
it's the big one.
And the thing that tripped me out about that is, again, we talked about it earlier with the Watchmen movie. They don't show the squid, lame, dumb. They just show the squid in like one shot.
They do. It's beautiful.
And you completely understand the gravity of what occurred because of the squid. And the way that he walks out from the Hall of Mirrors and sees all the destruction, it is heartbreaking. I was like, holy shit. And it just like, I'll be real, dude, it caught me so off guard because like you start hearing the sound like it's raining, and then I was just like, oh shit, oh no. And then you just see all those people, and you have to walk home in that. Like
it was like when I first watched that episode, I remember when they open up, it's like New Jersey, and then it shows like the year, and I'm like, oh shit. Like I was like, wait a minute, is this gonna happen? And then of course, like he's lucky, he's the lucky one. He's like inside the Hall of Mirrors when it happens. Which of course, like, great origin story in a Hall of Mirrors, and his whole thing is like being reflective and all that crap. And like he can now can tell when people are lying, like that's a big thing for him. But yeah, like when they did the giant squid fall, like it really felt like that impact, like when you like read it in the comic, like this is just something like traumatic, like totally insane, like, and you totally get why he is the way he is, like from that, like just opening.
Yeah, we like to catch up, Canada. We're just talking about the Looking Glass origin, where the squid fall when he's in the House of Mirrors, and all that. Yeah, man, like it's really funny how like not having sex just saves you in the fictional world. It's like whenever in doubt, just don't fuck, because I mean you might live to see another.
You're gonna die.
Yeah, like it's kind of wild because, well, the irony in that too, I was like, that's what she gets for being a tease, because if she had sucked that dick, she would have been alive. So a lesson, people, if you're gonna go ahead and play someone, maybe a squid will fall in. But
you never know.
But my so I think if there's a complaint, I use the word complaint very lightly. This show is all over the place, like story-wise. Like there's a couple episodes where I gotta admit, I was like, man, where's Angela at? Like where? She's only in this episode like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, maybe. Like she's not in this a lot, and the show's definitely like this review, it's definitely jumping around quite a bit, and you're kind of like, but even not reading the original comic again before I watched this, I gotta say, I did find myself pretty easily able to keep up with everything. I was like, okay, I think the show does a good job. I think the recaps are invaluable. So this is a weird compliment, but I think sometimes with recaps for shows, they're very much kind of like, whatever. These recaps actually were very well done, and it really felt like the people in charge of the show went, okay, we understand this might be a little jarring for people, like very condensed cliff notes, so you can kind of like keep up in between each episode. I thought they did a great job with those,
especially watching like weekly, like you have that whole week, like have to wait for an episode. Watching this live in 2019, it was, those recaps came in handy.
Yeah, so I mean, I give them a lot of credit for that. So there's this point where Looking Glass is he's at a bar, and I will say, we talked about it a little bit, but I think PTSD, especially post lockdown after COVID, I think that's a very real thing. I think there will be studies done 50 years from now where it's like, wow, it's way more of a thing than we ever acknowledged in the moment. And the way that they actually talk about PTSD in this episode, in this show, I think is really well done. And the fact that he clearly has PTSD, he has the what is that metal material? He has it like in his hats too.
Yeah, they have a name for it, but it's
I'm
basically like straight up a tinfoil hat.
Yeah, and like, but he straight up is like no one's reading, like no one's fucking with my brain. Fuck you. But honestly, as I'm sitting there watching, I went, dude, I'd probably be in the same camp you are if I had survived this shit. Like it's a lot. And he ends up talking to this girl at one of his support meetings, and I'm not gonna lie, the moment they started talking and the moment I started to like her, I was like, oh, she's bad, isn't she? like I kind of had that Batman moment where it's like, oh, the moment I liked you, I knew that you worked for insert rogue villain company here.
Yeah.
It's just like
comic book stuff.
Yeah, and when he finds out she is bad, I was like, oh, like because there are definitely levels of bad. Like she could have been working for like the Penguin and be like, okay, not ideal, but I kick Cobblepot's ass all the time. That's a Tuesday, but it's like, oh no, she's one of that's unfortunate. And the way that he discovers that A is heartbreaking. He even goes like, fuck, you know how to pick them. And I was like, dude, that's a mood, man. Like I feel that, like it just feeling like, I picked another bad one. But the way that the episode kind of ends with him being informed to the lie
on the conspiracy,
yeah, Canada. I'll kind of let you talk about that revelation if you wouldn't mind.
Which revelation? That nothing that he thought happened the way he thought it happened?
Yeah.
Ozymandias, that whole.
Yeah, well, that's always rough because.
Yeah.
Going back to the way this opens. That happens? Yeah. Just going back to the way this opens, the show opens, the Tulsa thing. I was like, man, this is an alternative history show, and they really came up with a doozy, right? Like it was like me and my wife were the Padme Anakin meme. So I'm Padme in this case because my wife's very, very interested in history, like all of history, and it was like, oh, wow, what a crazy alternate reality, right? And she's like, and I'm like, right?
No, right? It's like, no. Well, it's crazy you say that. It's like Vietnam. In retrospect, it's so crazy all the terrible shit that the U.S. government was like just rewatching American Gangster recently. I was like, oh yeah, we were sneaking drugs back. Oh, that's like, yeah, we always push that aside. It's like that's a giant big deal that we just kind of go, well, we won, right? Like, but sorry, continue.
Well, Tip like Nelson, he's always one of my favorite actors, especially in the Coen series of films. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou was probably my favorite from him in the Coen oeuvre. For Mirror Mask, I think that's what he calls himself, yeah? Is it Mirror Mask?
Looking Glass.
Looking Glass.
I'm
taking his face too literally.
mirror guy. He always calls him mirror guy.
Like he wants his whole identity again is to get to the bottom of things, so people don't have to suffer like he did when he didn't know what happened. Like the ending of that origin story is him screaming into a void what happened, and finding out what happened is a lot different on the mind than witnessing what happened. So just because your memory, it's not great. Memory is not a reliable, and people hate when I say that, but it's psychologically and legislatively, believe it or not, proven. Memory is the worst kind of thing. And I like that he wears that type of mask because it's self-reflecting, but not just for himself, but for anybody who looks at him. Like you'll notice a lot of people throughout this series that don't like what he wears don't want to self-reflect either. And
very true.
I think he does an astounding job at finding out the truth of it. What was it? Was President Redford in on it also, or did they call him the
like
Redford
Ozymandias? Like basically, he
blackmails the president, right?
Yeah,
essentially,
he's like, "This is what's going to happen. Let me tell you how I did it. Let me tell you what you're going to do, and you're going to be president. Good luck."
Because for all intents and purposes, for a long time, everyone thought Ozymandias saved the world. And the last thing Dr. Manhattan tells him in the comic, which this is a sequel of, when Viet is just like basking in his own glory, he's all like, "I did it. I really saved everything. I ended all wars." And Dr. Manhattan says to him, "Oh, Viet, nothing ever ends," and then disappears.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And we all see what happens to Ozymandias throughout this show. Like, just the vanity of intelligent white. I don't think this show is calling out Elon Musk. But it is funny that the smartest, whitest guy, the self-proclaimed smartest, whitest guy there is kind of a jackass and ignores that a world is made up of a community of people, not a ruler king that makes all the decisions.
Well, it's fascinating too, though, how and we were talking about it. How is there such thing as an ethical billionaire? And like the answer really, like, especially watching this show, is like, no, absolutely not. There is no like the more the show goes on, the more it's like. So to date myself here, I still remember when Microsoft Word was free, like back in 95, where you didn't have to pay for it, or you could actually buy that year's edition. And then at some point, fucking Bill Gates was like, "Wait, I can charge $50 for this yearly? Oh, let's do that shit." It's like, wow, asshole. It's like, but he gives money to kids. It's like, but you don't need to make this much money. At some point, like you don't need more money to be sustained. Oh, well, it's all about power at this point. And and that it's really ironic how everyone is like, man, Dr. Manhattan could do more. Dr. Manhattan could do more. And yet they have the ability to do more, and they're just doing the worst shit. like doing the worst terrible shit. It's like, well, then it's like, no, you're actually worse than he is, actually, because Dr. Manhattan is actually more matter of fact. Like, humanity kind of hates, like, you all hate each other. Like, that's
this whole thing. Like, what's the line where it's like, "I'm tired of you people and your troubles, your qualms. I'm leaving. Peace."
But then he's not wrong. Like like Dr. Manhattan is very like so we'll, what, fuck it, let's talk about Dr. Manhattan now. So it's episode so okay, I'm so happy I was able to avoid spoilers. I was so happy I was able to avoid spoilers, because when I got to the end of episode 7, I think it was like 3 or 4 in the morning, and y'all were asleep, and I was like, "Fuck! I need someone to talk to you about this." I think like when 7 a.m. hit, and I knew Canada at least was awake. I'm like, "Dude, what the fuck was Dr. Like, I was like, my brain was because I'll need your guys' help. Who's the scientist? Tria,
Lady
Tria?
Shrew.
True. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's her, right?
Yeah, Hong Chao, right? Played by Hong Chao.
Yeah. Who I was like, why do I? It's crazy that she plays such different people each time I see her. Like
Yes.
it was
She's amazing.
it was so trippy to see her in The Whale and then see her a couple months later in The Menu, and I'm just like, she is fucking terrifying. Like holy shit. And
Yeah,
like
she's
I
got
know
really good range. Yeah,
she really does. And
character.
and just watching her, because the show does a good job. It's like, okay, she's just like, she's like every other billionaire who's like, I'm going to save things and make things better. But you're watching her and you're like, okay, there's something here. Like, I don't know what's here, but there's clearly something more ominous. And then when you realize who she is, it's like, oh, fuck me. This is way worse than even I thought it was. Because when they do the reveal of her, I was like, oh no, we're gonna be replicating this shit for decades because
just
of
keep it going.
Like, I was like, this is so bad. And but the Dr. Manhattan reveal, we find out that it's Angela's husband who's been living with her for a decade. And so first off, Dr. Manhattan being black, awesome. That just made me that was wonderful. And then I'm not even gonna try his whole name. Yahya Abdul Mateen II.
Yeah.
That's correct.
You got it. You nailed it.
Who's great in fucking everything. Like he's even great in Aquaman, where they don't give him a ton to do, which Black Manta would have been nice to see a little more, but I digress. He's also great in The Get Down. If you haven't seen The Get Down,
oh my god, yes, watch The Get Down.
Please watch. Yeah, The Get Down's great. The conversations that him and Angela have in episode 8 were so much fun, and they were so engaging. And he's very kind of matter of fact, like Canada is when he doesn't like something, and I really appreciated that. He's like, look, this is how it is, like humanity's pretty dumb. Like he pretty much says that. He's like, yeah, you're all pretty, like. You won the war, yay, but also, you'll do this again because you're humanity. You're kind of destined to keep doing this shit over and over again. History always repeats itself, which he's not wrong at all. Like we've talked about it off mic at length, Canada, about how the Bible is essentially like, oh, this person gets to power. God, it's like, oh, congrats, you got the power, just stay in your lane, don't be too shitty, and you'll be fine. And then David's like, oh, wait, I've got 5 wives. I really want that 6th one. Oh, it's my best friend's wife. Oh, hey, army, go ahead and pull back and just leave him on the battlefield. Oh, he's dead. You're a widow. Yeah, want to get married? And it's kind of like a repeat of that shit over and over and over again. So when Dr. Manhattan's talking that shit, I was like, yeah, he's not wrong. Like, this is kind of a pattern of humanity. And Angela, rightfully so, she's very like hesitant. She's like, dude, you're not Dr. Manhattan. Like, give me a fucking break. But he's so like just matter of fact about everything and just kind of cool with it while being informative. Like Dr. Manhattan's kind of smooth. I don't know if it's he got more soul or
I mean, hey, come on now. He bagged Silk Spectre.
Yeah, but when he flicked off to Mars, he started creating for himself, and this is important. He didn't create a palace to be admired. He didn't create monuments for other people to look upon them and be like, whoever did this, they are our new god. He did it because he wanted to create. And after being a grieving artist for so long, what's the best thing that what do grieving artists really want when they create to experience? And the answer, which is going to sound very simple, is love. And based on all the characters in this show, I think he absolutely made the right choice to share love with in Angela.
It's crazy how the episode is kind of designed to just kind of sell you on their love. And the way that it's fascinating. One of my favorite lines in the whole show. She's like, why would I get with you? If I know it's gonna be 10 years and then our relationship's gonna end in tragedy. And he just pauses for a second, and goes, well, don't all relationships end in tragedy? And when he said it, I was like, fuck, he's not wrong. Like it was one of those like I was like it was one of those uncomfortable like oh shit that like
was this 2019? Yeah, I'm pretty sure right then and there pants were off and we were like, all right,
like I get
it. you're like absolutely Dr. Manhattan.
Yep, I totally get it.
And also I don't know like I mean I can't think of a somewhat straight way to say this, so I'll just say it. Great dick. I don't know if that's all. I
I mean, I don't know either.
But because there's where like they're teasing it, you're like, you know, they're showing like side profiles.
Pun intended.
I was not even trying to do that actually.
I want to quote Rose, a friend of ours, because we reviewed Watchmen way back in 2019 together. She had the funniest thing to say. She's like, Billy Crudup was like smuggling like a pickle, and this man is literally walking around with a super energized can of Red Bull between his legs.
That's good. That's so good.
That's fantastic. Shout out to Rose, by the way.
Shout out Rose.
But yeah, like there's a point he's just like walking towards the camera, and I was kind of like, I was almost like, I was like, duck, you know. but there's a lot of confidence to doing like even just like any nude scene at all, let alone like. So I mean, shout out to him for, you know, shout to him for understanding and shout to him for understanding the assignment, but. But the way that they actually explain Dr. Manhattan being black too, I went, this makes a fuck ton of sense. And this actually is like not a reach by any stretch of the imagination. It's like, oh, okay, this actually, yeah, this makes sense. One thing I love about him is the actual explanation for why he doesn't know that he's Dr. Manhattan.
Yes, like
it was one of those it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, how would you not know? Oh, that's why you don't know. And again, I really would encourage people because we're gonna probably go another half hour on this, people. I still got a lot more to say, but there's so much going on overall in this show. Like it kind of felt like the first season. It's gonna sound like such a dick move, but it's kind of like the first season of Game of Thrones. Except I was way happier when this ended. Season 1 of Game of Thrones, which is why I didn't keep watching it. But you feel like this is random. You feel like they're just pulling shit out of the air at points. You're like, okay, how is this gonna connect? And by the time episode 9 ended, I was like, wow, they connected everything for the most part.
Yes.
Like there's a few questions I think you could still ask, but for the most part, it is a near perfect final hour of television. And I remember people going like, "Oh, we need more," and Damon coming out and going like, "Yeah, you're not getting more of this. Like this is a one and done." And honestly, good. Like, not everything needs to be expanded upon. Like, sometimes you can just let something, like, and that's something we need to get more comfortable with, y'all. Like, not everything needs to be a franchise. Not everything needs to have a sequel. Like, sometimes one and done is fine. And this is one of those cases where I'm like, I don't know if you could. Not saying this because like the writing's not great or anything, but like I don't know how you could improve on this or maintain the same level given all of the things that it pulls. Like it would kind of be like if someone was like, "Oh, Donald Glover, do another season of Atlanta." I'd be like, "I don't think you need to, man. Like I think where you ended it is great, and I actually would prefer you don't fuck with it." I want to get on to I want to get back to I want to get to Will Reeves, who Luke Gossett Jr. I was like, what? Luke Gossett Jr. is in this?
Yeah, he absolutely kills it in this show too. Like you were talking about how like a lot of this show, like especially if you're like imagine like putting yourself in like the headspace of watching this weekly, like you don't really know what's going on. You don't have all like the pieces yet. But there's like a line, it's probably like one of my favorite lines in the show, and I think it encompasses the comic as well. But he says, like, when he like meets Angela for the first time, there's a vast and insidious conspiracy here in Tulsa. If I told you about it, your head would explode. So I'll have to give it to you in pieces. And that's the show. That's the show in a nutshell. And like this show, like the biggest compliment I can give to it is it is so like rich and rewarding on rewatches because the foreshadowing and like little hints to things are like so they're there. You just don't see them when you're watching the first time. But like watching it again, like has been like one of my favorite like rewatches probably because it's so good how they set things up or like have things like right in front of you. Like what's the thing in the Prestige or stuff like that where like
Oh
I
yeah.
have to show you this so you're not looking at this.
Yeah, I think Bradley has kids older than Brandon. Is that true?
Do you?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think you do.
I was like, damn, I'm gonna feel like kind of old there.
I was so Canada doing the math. He's like, wait, no.
Crunching the numbers.
Right, exactly. So I think you're right. So it's funny how, and I know I keep going back to this, but Lou Gossett Jr. He's really kind of playing the Carl Lumbly Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier role in the sense of this guy who shows up and you're kind of like, okay, I know you're significant, but how are you significant? And I love the fact that when he meets Angela, he looks her right in the face, like, oh yeah, I killed your friend. And she's kind of like, and she's kind of looks at him like, bullshit, you're in a wheelchair. You didn't do anything. And the way that you find out how he killed him, I was like, oh man. And it leads to Project Cyclops, right?
Yeah, the Cyclops.
So okay, I'm happy you brought that up because episode 6 is where we so I mentioned it. Episode 6 was the episode that kind of broke my ass where I was just like, oh, god damn it. So yeah, episode 6 so actually episode 5, pardon me, ends with Looking Glass diming out Angela to Jean Smart's character. You find out earlier in the episode, it's one of the first things they show in episode 5 that Jean Smart's Laurie Blake has put a bug on their desk in the cactus because of course that's
we're the FBI, we bug shit.
and honestly, I almost appreciate how like nonplussed she is about it. She's like, yeah, oh no, we're FBI. We don't like. I think people forget. Like, I think people forget about that. How like Obama just basically came out and went like, oh yeah, we'll hack your phones if we want. And it's like, wait, what? it's like we're just like
rewind. Hold on.
Yeah, but honestly though, I weirdly would rather have that be common. You know what I mean? I almost rather have that be common knowledge than, decades later we find out it's like, oh, you didn't know we were doing this? Like, haha. So respect, kinda, I guess. But but the way that he dimes her out, first off, cold as shit. The way he does it, I was like, god damn. I was like, that really sucks. But then let me be clear, your phones are getting tapped. Yeah, exactly. but at the same time, where he finds out about the whole conspiracy and everything, the episode ends with Angela taking these pills, chugging these pills. Pardon me.
Oh, yeah.
Now nostalgia. Were those in the original comic? I couldn't remember. They weren't, right?
Pills? No, I don't believe
they
so.
weren't, right?
Well, I believe that there were drug addicts, but not. Yeah,
that it's like outlawed. Like it's not a thing anymore. Like you can't really get these anymore.
But so I will be the first to admit when she took all the pills, I was like, oh, that's not good. And then that's what leads into episode 6, where we get the origin of Hooded Justice. And I will say, man, the amount of notes I have for episode 6. So it starts off with a young Will Reeves becoming a member of the police department. And so first off, the fact that they have all the white officers going around, like the captain and everything, going like shaking everyone's hand, and they just go right past Will. First thing I was like, okay, cool, fuck y'all for that. Yeah. Let's get that. let's just get that out of the way. But then the black captain goes up to Will and shakes his hand and whispers in his ear, "Beware the Cyclops." And I was like, okay, that's ominous. Okay, I'm assuming that's going to come back. And
yes,
and you noticed the sign that you made, Brandon, that's the sign that several white people make during this time in the show, which you're like, okay, that's weird. What's going on? And then when you realize what Project Cyclops is, I was like, oh, that's fucking horrifying. And it's and it's one of those things where it always makes me laugh when people act like things like this are so like far-fetched, you know what I mean? Or it's like the way that, I'll just take this as an example, the way the Black Panthers have had their reputation dragged as far as what they were initially meant to do. And how Reagan dropped everything to go after the Black Panthers, but the Klan's over here causing more damage. And he's like, oh, well, that's fine. You can draw your own conclusions as to why that is. But the Project Cyclops thing legitimately scared me, and it's very Proud Boy, QAnon, like very much in that
Torch.
Vein. Like it's very much in that vein. And it's so weird that this show came out 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and it's like it's probably aged better now. Like I'm weirdly happy that I watched it this year, just because given everything that's going on. But the way that they have the nostalgia kick in and out, like it's very much like a fever dream. Which is terrifying given what she's having these dreams about. But this is maybe one of the best directed, actually, let me rephrase that. This is one of the best directed episodes of TV I've seen in my life. It scared me in the way that, you remember the X-Files episode Home? That it reminded me of like, where it's one of those things where I remember just sitting after I was over. I was like, I'm not gonna sleep well for like a week because there's so many implications on in this. So Hidden Justice, he ends up finding out what unfortunately a lot of Black people found out, that even as what Shaft say, too black for the badge, too blue for the brothers. It's very much that lane, and even his wife is like, dude, they're not going to accept you, like no matter what. And he's living up to optimism, which I get to an extent. He's like, no, like I'm a part of this now. I can make changes to me inside. But then he arrests this white guy who flat out sets this was like a Jewish like a Jewish shop, right? Like on fire. Like he sees him do it. Like he straight up like sets his place on fire. They arrest him, and then he sees the fucker. What? Like not even 12 hours later, he's out.
Yeah, just
and and he waves at him. He's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" I was like, "Oh, dude." And it's one of those things where, in that moment, I just went, "Oh, dude, you're learning a really unfortunate lesson that unfortunately still exists today. That this is a." People forget that cops used to hunt down slaves that are trying to escape to the north. Like the literal infrastructure of law enforcement has been racist from day one. And I've talked to Canada and y'all and you about this, Brandon. I think the days of subtlety kind of need to be over. I think sometimes you need a sledgehammer, and this show, episode 6 is a sledgehammer like a motherfucker. It's telling you like the world is racist. It's always been racist. You can deny it all the fuck you want, but it's a racist world we live in. And the way that episode 6 continues, and I'm going to throw it to you, Canada. Like, what did you notice in episode 6 that kind of like shook you, if anything?
Well, for me, in the original comic, Hooded Justice is the only character who's completely covered up.
Yes.
You can kind of see his eyes a little bit. And down the line, as the years pass, one day the Newson mask is found. And the comedian and Ozymandias, they don't know who this guy was or is, why he stopped being a hero. And I finish the comic every time, and I'm like, there's got to be some kind of clue in here, right? And Alan Moore's all like, read the fucking story. Stop asking me about Hooded Justice. You leeches, you want to suck the marrow from my bones. Like how Alan Moore is.
Yeah.
And I was so, I don't want to say unsatisfied with that. Just like, wow, I can't believe a comic book would have the balls to just, and this is a mystery that isn't solved. Thanks for reading. Episode 6, solving the mystery. The hooded justice is fully covered up because he knows he won't be accepted. And a part of his outfit is a noose around his neck. Jesus Christ. I like, the Jimmy Neutron brain explosion all over. And my wife, who's never read the comic, is all like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, how did they write this? This is incredible. And then I thought, oh no, the internet's going to cry and bitch about it. They're going to ruin it. I'm not going to go on the internet.
Yeah.
But then after like a month, I went on the internet and people were like, "We fucking love the Hooded Justice reveal. This is the most brilliant writing we've ever seen.
Really?
Of course, this is the Hooded Justice." And then, just more and more people were pointing out. And I think even Gibbons, who did the artwork of the original Watchmen, called it like a masterpiece. And that made me happy. Because not everybody who works with Alan Moore is a bitter, angry,
Right?
And no shade on Alan Moore. I've actually read a lot of Alan Moore works that I adore. And Angela having to carry the trauma by taking the nostalgia, the drug of her grandfather for that time. I read something about history that a lot of people hate history because it makes us feel ashamed. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's actually a good thing. Maybe more white people should feel ashamed about their history. And for someone to want to bring justice to his community and make it better because of what he lived through with the Tulsa thing, and that society saying, "No, not you. We don't want you here to make it better." And for him to be like, "Fuck you, I'm going to wear a mask then."
Yep.
Wow. And just the way Lou Gossett Jr. delivers his lines being the end result of Will Reeves, like, "I'm the guy who strung up your chief." Just matter-of-factly, beautiful.
So matter-of-fact. Yeah.
And like you just said, the subtlety's gone. It's time for the sledgehammer. That was the result of him finding out that a police chief was a grand wizard Klansman. Like, well, I guess I'll go string him up. And sometimes things are, in fact, that simple. And what's so amazing about it is the mystery of who killed this this servant of justice hanging from a tree. Who did this? Like, someone who was serving justice did it. Makes you think.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. Like, so this is where like I'm constantly at odds because, in a perfect world, like, okay, so this is like when Dexter was on, I would constantly have this argument with my former pastor, who I finally had to block because he was way too much on Trump stick. And the argument I would always make is, yeah, if I knew Dexter lived next door and he was killing child molesters, I'd make him cookies like every week. And he was like, "Oh, that's so barbaric, that's so cruel." And I was like, isn't stoning constantly talked about in the Bible? Like, constantly talked, like, literally dragged to the town square and they would stone someone. It's like, sometimes, unfortunately, and this is where you get the whole Daredevil, like, Punisher aspect, where it's like, okay, you want to try to do things by the book because you want to believe that the system works. But what this episode shows is, yeah, the system works for certain people, doesn't work for everyone. So then it's like, where's that line between you trying to do it the quote right way versus, oh, look, someone burned down this Confederate statue. Womp. Like, I think people forget, what was it, a month ago that Jackie Robinson statue was flat out like sawed off? Like, that just happened like a couple weeks ago and barely anyone covered it. It's like, y'all, like, and given the month it's in, like, you really think someone wasn't trying to send a message by doing that shit? It's like, come on. And it really just proves the episode's point that I think as the royal we were way too, white people in particular were way too proud of themselves for Obama getting 2 terms. And it's like, it's like, hey,
like I said, racism's over. We did it.
We won, you guys. It's done.
I love that Bradley Whitford, get out joke. It's like, I would have voted for Obama a 3rd time if I, but Brandon, like, you can speak to this, man. I think you've had you've had white people try to like, you know, like overly correct with you know, like, and you're just like, oh god, like don't do this. Just treat me like, you know, a regular. Like I I constantly have had white people try to do like this shit with me, and I'm like, don't do that. Like just just give me some dap. It's fine. Like don't overcomplicate this shit. Like,
just like Neil Patrick Harris character in Undercover Brother.
yeah, exactly. It's like don't do that shit. And but when Will, rightfully so, is like, dude, what the fuck? That guy just left, and he's like, you know, I'm trying to protect your skin. Like you need to like just drop this. It's like, wow, and that's someone who's supposed to be upholding these laws. And God, the afternoon. I'm assuming this is Josh. Just put in the chat. When I kissed my first white woman, that's when I knew racism was over. Yeah, I mean, I'll share. I mean, I think I've talked about the story in the chat, but I'll share it here. You know, I mean, I've had some not great experiences with cop. My first girlfriend, I would have been 14. You know, her and I are at the movies. We're walking out of the theater. Cop legit stops us outside the theater and is like, "Miss, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he goes, "Oh, I just want to make sure you two were together," and just walked away. And I remember it was like an hour later that it registered, and I was like, "Wait a minute." And I remember talking to my mom about it. And of course, like the first thing my mom wanted to do was like, you know, who the fuck was, you know. But I was like, I was like a white cop. I don't know what he looked like. But it was like in that moment. And this is on the fucking, you know, this fucking California. It was supposed to be liberal California. And I'm like, oh, fuck. That's, you know, that's not good. You know, that's me at 14, you know. So so as I'm watching this, I won't lie, I definitely was just like, I was feeling that shit. I'm just like, oh man, I don't like this at all. I don't like that Will's going through this shit. And the conversations he's having with his wife are very, unfortunately, real conversations. Ask any Black person you know, like you've had the conversation about how you act when cops are around, you know, and how you know, try to do nothing to draw attention to yourself or potentially get hurt and just try to get home, which the fact that those are conversations we even need to fucking have tell you all that you need to know. When Will realizes the scope of Project Cyclops, that for me, again, terrifying. The glee I felt though when he busted into that warehouse and just started like killing all these racist white people. Like I felt like I won't, like, I know Glee is a bit fucked, but honestly, Glee is what I felt. I was just like, yeah, this is great. When he goes to shoot the last white guy and he's out of bullets, I was like, no. I was like, curses. But
you can only do your best, you know.
Yeah,
with the tools provided. Yeah,
I mean, true. But oh man, one thing I love, and it's a very subtle thing, but the how Will's origins actually kind of mirror Superman, because they have the Action Comics Easter egg with that person reading the Action. I thought that was a really clever little connection there. I was like, I like that. I was like, I like that a lot. I know we talked about Bass Reeves. It's really ironic. There's a Bass Reeves show now, apparently.
Yeah. Who is it? It's
David.
Who it is? David Oyelowo.
Yeah.
Heard good things. I've not watched it yet.
I haven't either, but yeah, I've heard really good stuff about that, and that actually makes me. I know it's a Yellowstone show, so that does kind of make me like, like, is it
crazy? That Yellowstone universe is huge.
It's so weird. I would not have expected that.
Yeah, I have several friends who watch it, and I'm like, oh, all right, like cool, I guess. Like it's definitely just not made for me. It's just one of those things. I'm like, I don't think I'm ever gonna watch this. But but the fact that you realize that he used the that Will used Project Cyclops tech to get Don Johnson to kill himself is such a what sort of reveal. I was like, oh, that's wild. Like that he used the tech that was oh, like it, in the way that they actually show the scene and shoot the scene, I was like, this is insane. Like, because he gives him that little bit of time to actually talk to him before he hypnotizes them again. You're just like, oh, that's cold blooded. Like, it's so, like, Brandon, let me throw it back to you real quick before I make one more point. Like, yeah, kind of your thoughts as far as the.
Oh man, episode 6. I mean, I echo everything that you guys have been saying. Like, it's stellar television, fantastically directed. The Hooded Justice reveal is like such a good reveal. Like, there's a bunch of reveals in this show, but like that's like it's so well done. I have to shout out like the actor who plays young Will. I think his name is I don't know if I'm saying this right. Hoven Adepo. You may have seen him in Overlord or Babylon or Fences.
Oh, that's right. He was okay. I was like, he looked familiar. It was bothering me. Okay, thank you for that.
Fantastic actor. Like, I don't know if he was nominated, but like he should have fucking won like for guest actor or something. But one of my favorite aspects of that episode, you mentioned it a little bit, where like Angela is like fading in and out like of this nostalgia. A bunch of memories are like happening and overlapping. And funny enough, it kind of mirrors how Dr. Manhattan views the world, because he's always in the past, but also in the future. It's September 16th, 1984. I'm eating a bagel. Stuff like that. So I really enjoy that aspect of the show, of that episode. I mean, and of course, it being in black and white the whole time is beautiful. This is one aspect we haven't touched on yet, but goddamn, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score for this show is like godly. Like, if you've heard any of their music from like Social Network to Soul to like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, anything, you kind of know what to expect with Watchmen. But when you get to this episode, they go full jazz. They go full like very old timey. I'm like, have to remind myself like, oh wait, this is you guys. But it's beautiful. It's an amazing episode. I really love like the relationship he has with his wife, because like you're right, she kind of knows like what he's getting into, and like she doesn't necessarily say "I told you so," but she's like, "What did you expect to happen?"
Which that might be the most unrealistic aspect of the show, that a black woman wouldn't say "I told you so," because she would have been like motherfucker, I told you. but she was nice about it. But again,
she was very nice about it. And I think that I have to make sure. I'm pretty sure it's that actress, Danielle Deadweiler, who we've seen recently in The Harder They Fall, which again has Bass Reeves and more cowboy stuff.
God damn.
Yes, that is her. And recently in Till, she plays Mama Till.
I couldn't watch Till. I just my
no, me either.
Same. It was so recent.
Yeah.
But like she is fantastic in this. He's fantastic in this. And the part that I really love, where she kind of makes the switch, where she's not supporting him anymore. She's like, yo, why are you still doing this? Like, you don't have to do this anymore, and stuff like that. And at this point, he's with like the Minutemen. He's I mean, we haven't mentioned this either, but Hooded Justice is technically kind of like the first, not only the first superhero, first black superhero, but also the first gay superhero. Like, he's closeted, like he's hiding that from his wife. He's sleeping with Captain Metropolis. And so I think this episode is like a great parallel to what we see during the whole show, is like where they have this fake show within the show, American Superhero Story, which is very much getting on Ryan Murphy. And which I think even like they make fun of Snyder a little bit too, because like,
they definitely make fun of Snyder. Like, I would say the focus of their Venom is definitely Ryan Murphy, who I have at length talked about why. So I'll be real, man. Like, I really hope that there are more gay creators who rise up and end up being great, because Ryan Murphy seems to be able to just go like, I'm gay, don't criticize my shit. And it's like, well, like a lot of your stuff's problematic. Like, I don't see most of your stuff is problematic. That Dahmer show, I don't get it. Like, it's like, and I had friends being like, dude, you have to watch this. I was like, I'm not watching this shit. I have no reason to watch this shit. Who's the guy who's Captain
Metropolis?
Thank you.
Yeah, Captain Metropolis.
that scene in particular just made my blood boil, where he's like, he literally says, "You're gonna have to solve this black issue yourself." And I'm like, "You fucking asshole!" like I was yelling at the TV. I was like, "Fuck you!" It's like you said that you believed in what he wanted. He literally says, "I'm afraid you're gonna have to solve black unrest on your own." I was like, "I fucking hate you, you piece of shit." And for then him to have the balls to go, "It's a shame you always have to wear your hood, that they can't see how beautiful you are." It's like, wow. It's like there's so many moments in this show, in this episode in particular, I was just like grumble, God damn you. And I was cursing Brandon, but cursing myself because I was like, Brandon warned my ass. I was like, I should have listened. And it's like, but then it's like, fuck you for being a racist asshole. it's like this isn't my fault. It's your fault. But it's just me being very, very angry. We haven't mentioned this yet, but the way there's several shots. One shot in particular.
I think I know what you're talking about.
There's what I call the "I'm sure" shot. So there's a shot of Angela in the mirror, but she's seeing everything from Will's perspective. But she occasionally kind of morphs into the part that he's in, and we haven't talked about it, but there's an actual point of view sequence where Will's about to be hung by these cops who, they're very much like, "Oh, come on, come get a beer with us." And he, rightfully so, because I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, "Fuck no, I'm good, go away." And so he keeps walking. It's like, "Oh, come on, we really want to get a beer." Nah, I'm cool. Like, go away. And then he ends up he's just trying to get away, and they fucking corner him in this alley. And you literally see a lynching from Will's point of view. And I read some reviews from people. All right, I was gonna try to be nice and not go off on IGN, but I kind of have to in this way. So I still remember when they rebooted Tomb Raider, which is fantastic, by the way. 3 excellent games. And one of the things that pissed me off is that there were people who were like, "Wow, Lara Croft almost gets raped and she shoots that guy point blank range in the head with a shotgun." I feel like that was overkill. It's like, what the fuck did you want her to do? Get raped? It's like, you fucking assholes. and so it's like, you can talk about these issues, like, again, the whole subtlety thing, like, because I think it was Mississippi just outlawed lynching like last year. Like, I think it was Mississippi. Yeah. It's like, this is why there are shows like this, because it's shit's still happening. I mean, I remember when I was still in Texas. I mean, this would have been like 10 years ago, but there was still like nooses being hung and that being in the news. It's like, oh wow, it's a Tuesday in Texas. Like, this shouldn't still be happening. And that scene is so intense and it's so uncomfortable. And it oh man, I was so fucking angry. And what they say to him, like, stay out of white people's business. It's like, it's like fuck all of you. And so when you realize that's why Don Johnson got killed, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fair. Like, fair enough. Like, I was like,
he was just finishing the job. That's all Will was doing, just cleaning up, finishing up what he had to do.
Well, it's crazy too, because you have that whole concept of like, at one point, because I think I was reading an article about this like last year, where it's like, because there were still people who helped with the Nazi party who were getting arrested, like in their 90s and shit. And people are like, "Oh, what does it matter now? They're 90." It's like, I'd still arrest a racist at 90. Are you kidding me? Like, it's like,
I mean, especially a Nazi,
Yeah, it's like,
it's like, this isn't connected to illegal activity, everybody.
Yeah, it's like there is no like time limit as far as when, as far as accountability, which oh god, saying that out loud just feels great. You know what I mean? It's like,
in some states there is.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. Well, it's like I posted when Sean Connery died, I can't remember exactly what the post was, but it was something like, oh, like women will feel a little safer because Sean Connery's not around to like smack the shit out of him. And one of my friends was like he just died. I was like, so? I was like, Sean Connery at points talked about how he hit women and was like proud of it. It's like, I'm sorry, does being dead absolve you from all the bullshit you've done? Like, he's not around. He doesn't give a fuck what I'm saying, So, but
Right.
to Will's point, him living through all that and having to carry all that, I 1,000% agree and understand why he did what he did. I was like, nah, dude, yeah, because how do you reconcile all of that? And he lost everything because of that. Like, I mean, yeah, his marriage like definitely was not in a great place anyway, but the scene in particular that gave me goosebumps is when their kid puts the noose on and the makeup on and he just loses his shit. I was like, oh no. And like that switch, the way that flipped, I was like, oh wow, like that's some shit. But then it really does speak to the whole sins of the father aspect as far as, and I think this is, I don't want to say is unique to Black families, but there is definitely, that aspect of generational trauma that you carry down and how you reconcile with that. And Angela having to reconcile with that as far as why she became a cop, because Angela has her own tragic origin story, which when they revealed that, I was like, y'all just can't catch a break. I was like, this family,
no.
I was like, oh my God, because her story really is as tragic as his is, just in a different way. Like, yeah, Brandon, can you speak to me on that, man? Like,
I mean, what you just said like reminded me of a line that Gene Smart's character Lori says to Angela when they're driving to go see Lady True. She's like, people wear the mask, to hide the trauma, to hide the pain. And then like Angela's like, I don't wear the mask to do that. I wear the mask to protect myself. And she's like, right, from the pain. And like, of course, Lori knows this. She's not true to this. And like that's one of my favorite aspects, just to like side note love. I absolutely love the way Angela and Lori like talk to each other and like just their kind of back and forth. But yeah, man, like even like I forget which episode it is, but there's a scene where young Will, like he's putting on like his father's uniform and like he sees like the note from like the Nazis gave him, like or not even Nazis, is World War One. He sees like the note that was still in his pocket, like where the Germans were like, Black people, why are you fighting against us? You don't need to do this. And then like his dad almost kind of reacts the same way, like snatches it from him, like take the uniform off. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like another super strong theme in this show that is like super prevalent, like trauma. Trauma creates superheroes, and superheroes are all about their trauma. Like we even have like that one scene where Angela finds out like her ancestry and like goes to like that place where like refordations happen, right? Like you get to like find out more of your stuff. And refordations is basically just reparations, but in this world. And she finds out like about Will, and like she sees her great grandparents, and like there's like a scene, and it's straight up kind of like almost foreshadows this episode where she like kneels down and like child Will's face is like in front of her face, and like it just really blends together for a moment. I
love that shot.
And so yeah, it's just like everything that you were saying, man. Like the trauma is a part of these people, and like whether they want to get away from it or not, like it's a part of them. And the main thing is how like you deal with that trauma and how you like I don't want to say use it, but like I mean like you use it as a superhero, or like as a person.
I will say too, this blew my mind. This was oh my God, I love what Lori's origin is as far as who she is. I was like, oh fuck, what? Like when they revealed that, because the comedian is a piece of shit. Like it's very common knowledge that the comedian is just terrible. And then when you realize like her connection to Silk Spectre and the comedian, you go, oh wow, so if Hooded Justice isn't there, this is actually worse. So it's like, wow, so Hooded Justice actually, like, the whole butterfly effect aspect, you're like, oh, so because of him, okay. And in realizing that Lori has her own history of wearing a mask, you're like, oh, okay. Because there's this amazing sequence where they have the funeral for Don Johnson's character, and this guy shows up with a bomb on him. Angela goes ahead and reacts fucking quickly too, by the way, and like saves everyone. And then her and Lori end up having this conversation, like in this, like by the gravesite, and it's very much like a chess match where she's basically like, "All right, like I know you're onto some shit. Like it's just a matter of like me basically putting two, like, but it's so matter of fact, and it's like the nicest way you could threaten someone, honestly." like it's like, I know there's something going on.
My favorite bit in that scene is when
Brandon, you froze. Welcome back. Go ahead. What were you saying, Brandon? Canada, I'll throw it to you. Brandon's still frozen, I think.
Well, I just like how wise Laurie has gotten over the years, especially after the unfortunate casting from the movie.
I agree.
Because like what
technical difficulties.
Yeah, you
just
were
a little bit. Yeah, like what does one do when their identity is more than likely a product of rape?
Yeah,
and like like, oh no, well they just shouldn't know that. But then it goes back to Will, his history, his father's history, Angela's history. Like, oh well, I'll become a senator of Florida and be like, nobody needs to know any of that. Like that's not the right way to go with this.
But I mean, you're not wrong. But then, like, I think the scary thing about that too is like, how do you reconcile that too? Because it is part of, it is part of who you are. It is something that you have to. I mean, we all have our, our traumatic, things. And I mean, I will be the first to admit there's definitely been there's definitely been some things where I've been like, oh wow, that was something that I kind of pushed like deep down, and then on occasion something will come up and I'm like, oh, and it's kind of like, oh, I don't really want to think about that, but now I am, and oh shit, how do we how do we kind of, like, one thing his wife says it, she's like, you're an angry man, William Reeves. And that's something in the last really when Trump got elected last time, I'll be the first to admit I didn't realize I was like that angry of a person until that 4 years. I was like, oh my god, I was like, I fucking hate everyone who voted for this guy. And trying to like have people reconcile with me just pissed me off more, because I'm just like, why? Like, how do you vote for someone this vile and shitty? And then when people try to justify it to me, I found myself getting more angry. I'm like, fuck you. Why are you like, and so when Will is just kind of snapped, and he rightfully so was just angry, I was like, I get why he's so pissed off, because he's trying to make things better. He's literally just trying to do his job, and he's not allowed to do it because of how he looks. And it's like that would piss anyone off. I've talked about it before with, the whole, black people being called lazy, and yet the amount of hoops that we have to jump through just to even be on somewhat neutral ground, it's exhausting. And so, like from his perspective, I just like, it's crazy how much I think this dives into it. Since we haven't talked about him yet, and you're the you've read it. We haven't even talked about fucking Jeremy Irons, who, oh my god, like I don't know if you could get someone more perfect for that role than Jeremy Irons. Like he's like, it's so weird how you see him in like Batman vs Superman, and you're like, okay, you're like, you're here to get a check. I can't blame you, but but you know what I mean? Like he's still good, but also like
he is good, but he's not giving really much of anything other than to explain to Bruce what common sense is.
Yeah.
If someone if someone can commit a crime, we have to 100% take care of that. That's everyone, Bruce. That's literally everyone. You freaking weirdo.
We're talking about Batfleck.
Yeah, we're talking about how we haven't talked about
Jeremy Irons is perfect.
But
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So okay. So his connection, because I was sitting there like with the lady trio, just like, okay, how are they connected? Because there's this point where you see a statue of him, and Angela even kind of makes this retort about like, he looks old. She's like, well, unlike y'all, we actually respect our history. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then when you realize why he looks old, I was like, oh, you bitch. I was like,
yeah.
And again, mind blown moment. I was like, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, why is he? Oh my god, it's him! What? And it's like, like, I really wish
that's like another one of my favorite reveals right there.
I wish I would have done like live reactions to this, like facially, because I was like, what? Like, but his whole thing about being on this planet, what's the name of the planet again? Remind me.
Is it Europa?
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
Where he's just being
one of Jupiter's moons, right?
Yeah, where he is just being worshipped. Like he has the easiest job in the world. He's just being worshipped.
Yep.
And with no consequence. And he hates it. I was like, that's so wild to me that he's in a spot where he literally has to do nothing and he can't help himself. And it's like, and I don't know, like, and I'll throw it to you first, Brett. Like, is there that, like, and I'm gonna equate this to boy bands, but stick with me here. Is there a point where you're just so loved that you're almost like sickened by it? Like, you know what I mean? Because like, how many times can you hear like, oh my god, you're so hot, and you're so rich, and you're so great, and you finally like push back against it and hate it? Like, is that what's happening? Because
I think it's a bit of that, and like, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but Adrian Ozymandias, he's an asshole. His ego is bigger than the whole world, and like he even mentions it. I forget what episode it is. When he's talking to his servants, he's like, when I first came into this place, I thought it was a paradise, but now I know it's a prison, and like, he is unhappy being a ruler. Like he is not what he thought it was, especially on a planet where like nobody really knows him like how they did on Earth. Like you're not the world's smartest man anymore. You're just, a man on that planet. It doesn't really matter how smart you are. And like I think that just even goes to show like how good of a sense of humor Dr. Manhattan has to like put him there.
Agreed.
Like he knew exactly what Ozymandias would get up to. He knew exactly like the kind of person he is. And the way he just kind of goes crazy there by himself.
Yeah.
And like one of my favorite bits is that like I forget what they call him, but like the guy who wears the mask, was it the game maker, the game watch? Something like that.
I know who you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah. But like the only reason he's there so he can have an adversary. Like, so like it just goes to show like why Ozymandias is the way he is, and like maybe it's a good thing he's there because he could not operate on Earth.
No,
after
not
like
at all.
After the big dropping of the squid, he's just like one of my favorite like characters on the show. Jeremy Irons fucking kills it. Every episode we get like a bit of him until like we get like more and more and more. But yeah, you can just see like what happens to a genius when he's left alone.
It's very Sherlock Holmes-ish in the sense that his brain can't compute not having a challenge or not having something to do, and like he can't, like, it's, you know, it's almost very ADHD in that sense, where it's like, oh, you know, where it's like, oh, I have in theory everything I want, and his brain just can't it just can't wrap its head around it. Canada, kind of your thoughts on that?
Well, as a anti-hero or an anti-villain, it's hard to say with Ozzy. He wants to come across as altruistic, as like this ideal man whose presence makes the world a better place, but alone and having no one to serve and rather worship him properly, we see that he's really just an egomaniac who needs constant praise and constant reassurance that he is amazing. Like, I wouldn't say it's insecure, but dude, like, smell the flowers, like, touch the grass, smell it, walk around Europia, enjoy the bounty of its pleasures. But instead, he's like, oh, poor me, that no one is here. That somewhere out there in the universe, I'm missing from a planet that needs my greatness. Like, oh my God, dude, relax. And Ozymandias, of course, after the poem of the fallen statue, which is decrepit and decayed. Here lies Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my great works and despair. You know, it's a perfectly picked name for this horrible monster of a man. And he does things with such. I think more than ever, this performance really hits with me, because so many people like him are like, I'm a martyr. My shocking and powerful truths that the world needs is making me a martyr. And like, just, can you fuck off for a minute, please? So like what you said, Brandon, like, Dr. Manhattan knew what he was doing when he put, but I think Dr. Manhattan too, knowing all of time forward, backwards, and current, knew even without such a power that Viet would never be someone who could be satisfied in any aspects of his life.
And I think that's what I find so fascinating. It's like, you do all of this and you're still like, it's Brad, you'll appreciate this. It's the flaming Homer versus the flaming Mo. Like it's not enough for him to have, quote, saved humanity. It's that he needs everyone to know that he saved humanity, and that's where the ego comes in, because it's like, and it's weirdly similar to Trump in that way, in the sense of, it's like, dude, all you had to do is nothing. All you had to do was just shut the fuck up, and like, no one would have started digging on your stuff. But it's like, it's that ego of, no, I need y'all to know and acknowledge what I am, or what I think I am. And that's what gets them caught. And it's fascinating in that way, because that's like, you know, if
I've narcissism, maybe.
I know 1,000%. Sure. But it's like, that's how so many, you know, people get caught who in theory shouldn't get caught, because they keep going like, well, you know, I got away with it. But in a weird way, some people, I think, do want to get caught. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, you could have just stayed. Like, the fact that he spells out "save me, daughter" in the bodies of the clones that he is just launching, I was like, dude, like, if, like, again, that so cool. That
was a cool reveal of his madness.
My God.
Very good reveal.
Well, because you see all the bodies that he's just launching, and you're like, wow, what the fuck is he doing with these? And then you see it and you're like, oh my God, you sick fuck. It's like, this is what you're doing. And the fact that he had all of his cum like in a cabinet, like behind a painting.
Right? Like, it's like, okay.
Very like, Howard Hughes.
Oh, come on, it's like ego fucking maniac. And like, just the fact that, you know, the cleaning lady was like, oh, well, let's just like,
I'm taking this.
Wouldn't you think you'd have that in like a giant ass vault? You know what I mean? Like given,
I mean, it's him, so he's like, who cares? Like, I'm gonna have this right next, right behind my portrait of Caesar. Fuck off if you see this because it's mine.
Yeah, and being behind a painting of Caesar, I found that to be very apropos. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right, given what
he
Caesar
loves
is trying to-
Caesar, dude.
which again makes a ton of sense. It's it's like when people go like, oh, like Castro actually had a lot of good ideas. It's like, oh, that's all I need to know about how you feel about things.
Yeah.
Getting the episode 9, because I did want to touch more on that.
Okay.
I think this finale is about as perfect as it can get. The way that they converge everything somehow, because I will say, going in episode 9, I really was like, wow, you've taken episode 6 to focus solely basically on Will and Angela. Episode 8 is just a Dr. Manhattan episode. Like, how the fuck are you going to connect everything in an hour and 8 minutes? And it does. And I was like, wow, they found a fucking way. I apologize, show, for questioning you. And so oh god, I keep forgetting, Lady Trio, you find out that she's his daughter, that she's Jeremy Irons' daughter, which that reveal, I was like, oh fuck, this is bad. And and also just a very good rule of thumb, people, like most tech companies, I say this as I'm using Google Chrome, but
right,
but
on my Apple product,
right, but most tech companies, there's usually something not good, and the fact that you see this giant like monument that's been built, as soon as I saw it, I remember going, oh wow, so that's going to do something terrible, and and when you find out what it is, I was like, oh yeah, that tracks. This would be something terrible that someone with this much money would do. The absolute coldness that Adrian has towards her, as far as like, you need to become something on your own. I was like, oh man, like the irony in that, given the assist that you got, number one. But then 2, her anger towards him and being like, oh, I'm gonna do what you did, but on a grander scale. It's crazy to me how those lines cross, because you get in a very sick way where they're both coming from. But then again, that goes back to the whole sins of the father thing. The fact that he thought he was so infallible that, that he has to be the one to save humanity again, when really this is his own fault for just not knowing when to shut the fuck up and not be an asshole. Like,
what'd you think about him like starting to dictate the terms of how he is the grand savior, but how the 2 characters that are there that kind of helped him out, Looking Glass and I think Laurie's there, are like,
Lori,
no, dude, that's not how this is playing out.
I love that. Well, I love that Laurie's like, nah, dude, you killed 3 million people. Like, you don't get to just walk away from that. I was like,
dumb shit.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, dude, you thought that this was gonna just be like a wand that would be waved. I was like, good, I'm happy. And when he just gets popped and he's just like, he talks.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I was like, ah.
Yes.
I was like,
I love that it was Laurie and Looking Glass, especially because Laurie and Adrian are the only OG Watchmen to be in the show. And Looking Glass, we talked earlier about like when he found out about the conspiracy, and him like kind of coming face to face with the conspiracy artist there. It's just like, I think really, really cool moment there.
It's very cathartic, and that's what the poem, the Ozymandias poem, is, which a lot of people miss, because it's that cool line, "Look upon my great works, ye mighty, in despair," but it ends with the distant traveler leaving the barren wasteland where that statue was, in the sands far, far away. Like, this man is not remembered. He's a jackass who thought he was God, and now all that's left is a monument that his people more than likely tore down themselves and spit on.
Yeah.
So I like, and also very glad Looking Glass was alive. We didn't know that until the finale.
Yes.
Because they definitely leave you in this part like in the episode 5 where the fucking racist assholes are are showing up to his house.
Yeah.
And you're just like, and you're like, oh fuck. And then it goes to episode 6 and you don't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, fuck. I will say myself, because we haven't talked about him yet. James Woke, I believe is his name. He played a Senator Keene.
Oh, Senator King. Yes.
Oh my god, fuck that guy. like Senator Keene.
What a cheeky bastard.
Oh my god. Like it honestly, dude, like very much, and I know I keep equating it to the show, but he's very much the kind of like the John Walker character in the sense of like he's like, oh, I'm doing the right thing for all of you. Like, don't worry, I got this. And the more he talks, and even when he initially talks to Angela, and Brandon, I don't know about you, and I'm speaking to you specifically on this, but you know those people, and actually, Canada, I'll keep you in on this. I think you don't know what I mean. You know those people who are worship leaders, and it's too performative. You know what I mean? Where you question the sincerity of it. You know what I mean? Like that's all I thought when he first met Angela. Like, oh, nice to meet you, ma'am. I was like, oh, you say the N-word in your car, don't you? I was like, I know white people like you, and I was like, no, you're shady. So when it's revealed, like, haha, I want to be Dr. Man. I was like, oh, you fucking ass. I knew it. I was like, you piece of shit. And even when he's talking, I know I mentioned it earlier, but when he's like, oh yeah, it's hard to be a white man in America, but don't worry, we're gonna course correct that. I was like, oh my god, I hate you so much. Like, I was like, this is every Fox, this is every Sean Hannity opening, every Tucker Carlson opening. Just like it angers me so much because you hear this, like, this is the playbook. Like, it's straight up a playbook at this point, and you hear this shit over and over. And for him I mentioned in the chat, when he flat out goes yeehaw, I was like, oh, I fucking hate this guy. I was like, I already didn't like you, but you're just trying to make me hate you more.
Very satisfying character arc for him. The way
absolutely.
His character goes out.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like a good death for someone who deserves it. And when he gets off, I was very happy. I will say too, seeing the squids come back at the end was really fucking cool. And I know we've talked about her, but Angela is such a smart person in the way she actually gets away from that. I was like, okay, that's fucking clever. And then you realize that Dr. Manhattan had which I thought was actually very clever, because you see they talk about how with the lithium it's throwing him off as far as where he's at in time, and like it's fucking with him. But he was able to transport their kids to a safe location, but he doesn't know where they're at, and so you're kind of like, oh shit, like where did he transport the kids? And of course, he transports the kids to the theater that we see at the beginning of the show, and I was like, of course that's where he sent them. And you're like, oh my god, just clever motherfucker. And then we get these flashbacks between Will and Dr. Manhattan that are so, it's crazy. I mean, we know Dr. Manhattan is Dr. Manhattan, but for him to know that, okay, there's only kind of one way this ends for me, but we need to end up here, is such a wow sort of moment. And the way that that Angela and Will have kind of this last conversation, the line that he drops that flat out made me have to pause the show. He's like, you can't heal under a mask, Angela. Wounds need air to heal. I was like, holy shit.
That's the show.
Yeah. Like, that straight up is the show. Like, in a nutshell, if you could use one line, like, that's it right there. But then on top of that, after that, the show goes, so there's this argument that Angela and Dr. Manhattan have in episode 8. And I actually appreciate, because Dr. Manhattan's like, oh, I'm Dr. Manhattan again. Fuck, I'm hungry. I'm gonna make some, he turns into donkey. Like, I'm making waffles, and she fucking snaps. She's like, dude, what the fuck? We don't have time, and breaks these eggs. But then it flashes back to something that they were talking about in the bar. about eggs and how he could technically create matter and transfer himself, his powers to this egg if he wanted to. And they go back. She goes back to clean everything, and there's one egg left. And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you brilliant bastard!" Like when they showed the egg carton, I was like, "Oh my god, there's one egg left, isn't there?" And I was like, Joe, why are you so smart?" And so I love the fact that we don't see her walk on water. They do just enough to make you go like, "Yeah, she's gonna walk on water." And this is one of those cases where you don't have to show everything. Like sometimes it's enough to just give you all the breadcrumbs to get up to the point. And that last shot is so fucking cool with the implications and knowing that she could really make change in a positive, way. Oh gosh. One last thing I wanted to bring up is I love how the racist white people are about to get killed, and they don't even want to hear the speech at the end. They're like, they're just like, we don't want to know we're pieces of shit. Just go ahead and kill us. And she basically goes, "Oh, don't worry, I'm going to." It zaps the shit out of them. I was like, oh my god, like as far as a death, that is a fucked way to go, to just be zapped out of existence. It's like, god damn, but also so satisfying. Like I cheered. I won't even lie. I paused. I was like, hooray!
Yeah.
Put it on repeat.
Yeah. And the way the senator goes, I know we talked about that, but his death too is just
fantastic.
It's such a villain thing though, because Angela's nicer than me, because she flat out tells him like all this tech is hers. You don't want to push that button. And the senator just like, like he calls her black bitch, might I add, by the way, before he dies. Like she actually gave him a chance. It's like, no, dude, you're gonna you don't want to do this. And he's like, well, black bitch will shoot you down right now. It's like, all right, dude, you deserve the smoke. So I was very happy. But as we wrap up here, because wow, this did not feel like 2.5 hours. Jesus Christ, that was quick. Like any other things y'all want to bring up? Because I'll be honest, I could talk about this show for 4 hours. But yeah, anything else y'all want to bring up? Just kind of rapid fire. Canada, I'll start with you.
Well, I know a lot of people are like, "Buh," about the ending because they feel it's ambiguous. I don't think it's ambiguous.
I don't think it's ambiguous at all.
It's shot the way it's shot because it's her choice, and she realizes that it's her autonomy and her choice whether she walks on the water or not. Two, it's Lindelof paying tribute to, one of his good friends, Quentin Tarantino, like, look at this sexy foot, huh?
right.
And three, it's supposed to make the wrong kind of people nervous. Like, Angela's a god now? That's not good for me. Like, hold on to that feeling and change. Hold on to it and fucking change. Because you can. And this is your opportunity through art to realize maybe a flaw in you and fix it. If I don't want her to be Dr. Manhattan is your feeling, change.
Yes.
That's all I have to say about this brilliant. Well, that clearly wasn't all I had to say about it, but that's my closing sentiment on this brilliant show. The best continuing work from a separate medium in a story I have ever seen. And that includes like Lord of the Rings for me.
Wow.
Totally.
That's high praise.
And I gave all those films 5 stars too. So yeah.
I will say for myself, because I'm gonna save Brandon, I'm gonna save you for last, sir. I've been saying this a lot more recently with stuff like Meat and Mayhem and like American Fiction and Godzilla -1, Robot Dreams, to name a few. It's so cool doing this and having genuine admiration for art. And this is why the comic book medium, when people go like, "Oh, it's dead," it's that the buzzwords and woke and all that. Because I didn't look at any social media reactions on this because I didn't want to get pissed off all over again. Because I could just hear people go like, "Oh, like hashtag not my Watchmen." Like So I'm gonna say what I really said when I finished watching Promising Young Woman. Like, it's something that's gonna make you think. It's something you need to reflect on, And you should want people to feel like in the same way that when I reviewed that, I was like, this is something that should be shown for every, I would say, like high school freshman orientation on. It's a movie that should be shown. Because, you know, and I'll use myself as an example. I remember one time, and I might have said this on the show. If I did, I apologize. But, you know, I remember I was going to go drinking with a friend, and I was just talking to her about it. And she was like, I was like, oh, I'll just take an Uber home. And she was like, well, you know, I'm, you know, 100 whatever. I don't want to be alone in the car with a guy at 2 a.m. drunk. And it's like, that's not coming from a place of me being like, oh, women suck. It's just me being ignorant to the fact that it's something I just didn't even think about. And what art's supposed to do is make you think from other people's perspectives and want them to be safer and want them to be better. That's what something like Promising Young Woman does so fucking well in spades. And, you know, you should want people to be more safe. You should want women to feel more safe after watching that. If you watch this and your message is not my Watchmen, you really need to do some self-examination and feel like why a Black person actually being able to walk down the street without fear is such a trigger for you. This episode, this is gonna be in my Black History Month rewatch every year moving forward. I'll probably watch this and Falcon and Winter Soldier back to back, because I think watching those two back to back, I think gives you a really wide view as far as a Black experience. So I've talked about the fact I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is the best thing that Marvel has produced. I still feel that way. It's a really hard watch, just like this was a hard watch. You know, just thinking about, you know, Steve Rogers breaking all those men out, saving him. Oh my God, he's Captain America. Isaiah Bradley does the same thing, and he's literally burned and experimented on because of it. You know, I didn't mention this yet, but Megyn Kelly going off about the Black national anthem. It's like, this is what we're talking about. It's like, this is like, it's like y'all can't let us have even the shortest month without you spewing this bullshit. It's like, God damn, like, you know, and it's exhausting, you know, and it's always we don't see color. Yeah, you do. You definitely do. You just see color when you don't. Fuck, Beyonce has a #1 country song right now, and there are people already going like,
"Oh yeah, they're mad."
Black people can't do country, and it's like, and I'm not even a Beyonce fan, but it's like, wow, like that's a medium of music that has been, I'll be nice and say, not cool towards Black people historically.
There you go.
So it's one of those things where it like. This show is so relevant. It's probably more relevant now than it was when it was made, which is
I think so too.
Insane to think about. But this is something that you could write papers on and essays on. Fuck, we've basically written an essay on this with this review.
At least 3.
Easily. But this is one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen in my life. Everyone knew the assignment, as the kids say. Do kids still say that?
I think so.
Yeah. Sure.
There's levels, you know, elevated, total goat. Lindelof and cast are built different, you know.
Yeah, all the
show 8.
Oh God. all the terms you kids use, but I'm so happy Regina King got her because I think she won an Emmy for this too. Then
she did. Yes, she did,
and well deserved. Holy shit! Everyone involved in this show should be so proud of themselves and the art that they created. I stand by the fact that I'm a little concerned of how Don Johnson plays a racist, but that's the I really hope you're not. I really hope you don't have anything in your closet. But I adore this show, and just a tip of the cap to everyone involved. I figure we're all at fan-fucking-tastic, so I'm just gonna put that for everyone. I figured that was kind of implied at this point, but Brandon, I'll let you have the last word, man. Go ahead.
Oh man, before getting to final thoughts, I just wanted to, because I have a habit of going back and like looking at reactions or reviews whenever I rewatch a show.
Yeah.
So I was just checking out like different discussion threads on Watchmen and seeing like what people were theorizing of back then. Oh my gosh, is Will Dr. Manhattan? Oh my goodness. Stuff like that. But one thing I saw that really clicked with me was someone mentioned that none of the central characters on this show have like children of their own. They have no legacy. Like Angela, she adopted those kids. Looking Glass definitely doesn't have any kids.
Yeah.
Silk Spectre, no kids. Lady True, she cloned her mother, so that's not really her kid.
Which is wild, too.
So
Yeah, very weird.
That was such a like, what you did? Yeah.
But yeah, just thinking about that and how like big of an emphasis legacy is on the show and how many characters care about that, and like none of them really have like that main thing when you think of legacy. And I'm like, wow, that is so weird to think of, and like, and just like especially when thinking of like what even a season 2 would be for this show. I don't know that I would want to think about that.
I'm honestly like, right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Because this season is just so perfect. It's like from beginning to end. Nothing short of a thermodynamic miracle. It's
nice.
like
well done.
Everything is connected, like how you were saying. Like if you're getting to episode 9 on your first watch and you're like, well, how the fuck does this all connect? And then you finish episode 9, you're like, oh, okay, that's what it does. I just got a shout out to Lindelof cast and crew. Like I think he even said like he wouldn't be anywhere without like his writers and like creatives in there. I think he even said he had to like fight like HBO executives on like Hooded Justice specifically. So like right.
We showed
executives don't understand the genius of that, though. You know,
they don't. But I'm so glad he got to do it. I'm so glad this show got made and exists, and that people can still watch it. But yeah, I again agree with everything that you guys have been saying. Like this is probably not even probably. This is one of my favorite shows of all time. Like I said before, like it rewards you on rewatches.
Yes, it does.
It rewards you if you are a comic book fan. It rewards you if you are not a comic book fan or just a straight up TV fan. I think this is like a show that you should show to, I was going to say all ages, but maybe not kids.
Yeah, like I would maybe. I would show this to, I'll be real, man. I'd probably show this to someone freshman year as you kind of start
teenagers.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like I think this is how you do an adaptation. This is how you do a sequel without like actually like getting the panel to screen. Like you don't need to do that. Just like as long as you have like those ideals, those themes, those like the feeling, I think it's like solid. And I can't think of any other comic book adaptation that has done it like this. And I would love to see more stuff like this where it's like a sequel to the comic, but not a straight up adaptation to said comic. But at the same time, I feel like it's impossible. Like Lindelof fucking pulled it off with this, and it seems like one of those like lightning in a bottle kind of things. But yeah, I love this show so much. The actors are fantastic. Everybody could be like somebody's favorite character. I love the show. It made me love Watchmen more. It made me love writing more. Yeah, that's what I got.
Nice, man. I again shout out to everyone affiliated with the show, from the writers to cinematographers to the actors, actresses to the grips. Like everyone who was involved in the show knew what their job was and crushed it. So this was truly an experience watching the show, and it's heavy. I will say. I spread this out over like 4 days, and I think if you spread this out over, I think watching this like 3-3-3, I think that would actually be a good.
I think so.
Like way to, because I'll be real. Like once I watched episode 6, my brain was just kind of like, oh god, I kind of want to just throw off the ball because episode 6 just made me so pissed off. And then I watched episode 7, and I actually got like more upset. I was like, god damn it, show. But I think if you go 3-3-3, I think it will I think you're able to keep the threads, but it still like has the intended impact. But yeah. See, I'm really happy we didn't review Moon Girl because we went to almost 3 hours talking about it. So, but yeah, y'all, those were our thoughts on HBO's Watchmen. It's streaming on HBO Max. I'm not calling it Max Zaslav, you hack.
Max Bondage for HBO. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm calling it HBO still.
It's Crave in Canada.
Oh wow.
Wait,
Yeah.
what is it? Wait, what is it in Canada?
Crave.
Really?
Yeah.
That's such a weird name. Like,
It is.
that sounds like weirdly sexual.
I'm not sure what the region. There's like regional coding disputes for certain licensed properties by Max, so it's just a completely different network entirely. It's this whole thing. I don't want to get into it.
That's awesome.
But it's a very peculiar. Yeah, I agree with you. It's peculiar.
I will say, kids, this is why you get a VPN.
I got the VPN.
I've told Bradley for years to get a VPN. He was like, "Oh, come on, Hunter," and he finally caved. I was like, "Okay, I get why VPNs are a thing now."
Yeah, absolutely, 100% appreciate that.
Last thing I will say about this show is it's not on 4K. I really like to see it on 4K. Because I actually went to buy it. It's just on Blu-ray right now. But if they were to put out like a special edition of this, which I think they should, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm because I know this won multiple Emmys. I think it won like at least 2.
Oh yeah. I think I want to say more than 2. I know.
Yeah, would you mind looking that up?
I got you. Of course, you know. Regina King won for Best Actress that year. Let's see what else they won. Yes, they won. Oh wow, yeah, they swept. They won Best Limited Series, Lead Actress in Limited or Anthology Series. Hold on, I hope this is right. Maybe Lead Actor too, but I need to see who the lead actor is.
Well, I know Yaya got a Emmy for his portrayal as Dr. Manhattan.
Did he?
Okay. Then that had to be it.
Good for him.
I hope I'm not just remembering that because that, like we said, memory earlier, it'll play tricks on you.
Right.
Yeah. Like my own brain decided that's who should win, so that's who did.
I'm so hesitant. I'm so hesitant sometimes to go like, oh, they won an award, because I'm like, is this what I wanted? Like, because I'm like, oh yeah, like Angela Bassett totally won for Wakanda Forever. You don't remember that? You don't remember that?
Okay. Here's what they did. They won. I mean, of course, for the episode 6, they won for like outstanding. What is it fucking called? Outstanding cinematography, outstanding sound. What else?
The sound
writing
design is on the show too. We haven't talked about that, but the sound design is
they won editing for the episode 7.
Goddamn.
Costuming. Like, yeah, they swept a lot that year. Of course, Trent Reznor.
Oh yeah, the music. Outstanding supporting actor in a limited series or movie winner. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II.
Nice. Hell yeah.
So yeah, they got a lot of awards. I remember being very happy during that award season.
Well, the music was a given as well,
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Well, fuck yeah, they deserve all the accolades. I'm really happy I watched this in this time frame.
Yes.
I don't know if I would have. I honestly don't know if I would have appreciated it as much back in 2019, but given everything, I absolutely adore this.
Oh, and The Extraordinary Being was written by Damon Lindelof and Cord Jefferson. And you might recognize Cord Jefferson from...
Shit, yeah,
you all know Cord Jefferson.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
That's awesome.
That just makes me love it more. Gosh. This warms my heart. Yeah. But
he was born in Tucson, by the way, Arizona.
Really? Oh, that's some shit. Wow. God, that just adds another layer to the show,
right?
Yeah, like Woody Allen can't say one bad thing about New York, and Core's like, okay, Let me talk about Tolstoy. But wow. But y'all, thank you so much for joining me on this. This was such a fun discussion. Bradley, please tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, I'm doing reviews on oneofus.net. Really glad we talked about this. I'm going to be discussing another adaptation in the future. Fingers crossed for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Netflix, please. Please, Netflix.
Come on, Netflix. Don't fuck this up.
You don't have to be perfect like this, but maybe a little bit of goodness. And
is it tomorrow when it comes out?
It is tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, shit. Ooh.
And I just have an Insta right now. I deleted all of Twitter because too much.
Oh, yeah.
Too much.
Good job.
Yeah.
I've been staying off Twitter for like the last week because I'm just, that's probably a good call, honestly. But
that's it for me and where to find it. Yeah.
Okay. Brandon, what about you, sir?
Yes, you can find me on that hell site of Twitter at childish_Brando, or where I'm honestly more frequently on nowadays, Letterboxd, Brando Not Marlin, where I should be reviewing more movies, but yes, that's where I'm at.
Boom. You can go ahead and subscribe to the show, please, on YouTube and Twitch. You can find me on twitch.tv/TheRealPineapple. You can follow me. Just go and search The Real Pineapple on YouTube, REEL Pineapple. You can follow me on Blue Sky, which is better than Twitter, thank God. You can find me at realpineapple.bsky.social. Got a question for the show, have a review request, just want to say hi, shoot me an email at jhunter@therealpineapple.com. You can follow me on IG and TikTok at jhunterrealpineapple, and you can follow me on Letterboxd at Black Shazam. And then you can follow, like, share, subscribe, rate the podcast, please. That definitely helps me out. Can find The Real Pineapple pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. I was gonna stream tomorrow, but to be completely honest, 3-hour stream. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take a break tomorrow. So I'm gonna be streaming on Friday now, talking about The Color Purple and The Earth Mama at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And then on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, I'm going to be talking about Malcolm X, which I'm really excited to rewatch that. I haven't checked that out since I rented it from Hollywood Videos, just to date myself more. Yeah, so it's been a minute, but I bought the Criterion of it. It's been sitting on my bookshelf, so it's time to actually open that and watch it. And then I'll have some more reviews coming up next week. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to review to close out the. Oh yeah, Monday I'm going to be reviewing Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Actually, I'm not going to stream on Friday because I just remembered that I have primary things, so I'll probably move all 3 reviews Saturday. But I'll post an updated review list there. But Brandon, Bradley, again, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate y'all. And have a good night, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.